Hello and welcome to AntipoDnD, a show in which a bunch of Australians who have been playing Dungeons and Dragons in a setting partly inspired by prehistoric Australia and New Zealand reflect on the. It's been about 2.5 years that we've been doing that. So we're basically going to talk about the first campaign, which concluded 2 weeks ago in our last session in episode, I wrote it down, 106. 106 sessions, including a few one-shots with other characters. But
I was going to say, does that count the one-shots?
So I'm David. I was the Dungeon Master and will be again.
You'll always be the Dungeon Master.
And the players were Kynwyn, Doug, Zindy, and April.
I mean, we still are those people, I hope?
Yeah.
We do sound a little bit deceased.
But technically you're not playing tonight and I'm not DMing tonight because we're just sitting around and chatting. But I don't know. It just felt weird to do exactly the same intro as usual.
Now we are chatting from the sort of grave.
Exactly.
We're pining for the fjords.
I roll to converse. How did I do?
Give me a roll. Do you have any dice?
Hang on. Persuasion. Let's go.
Wait, is this Doug's stats or Vitericus's stats?
Yeah, I feel like probably
25.
still rolling on. Yeah.
That's
good.
Okay. We'll see how that plays out. So, I do have a question for all of you. Well, I guess the first question would be, do you want to play a second campaign? And I know the answer to that because we've already got all your characters worked out for it.
Yeah.
Why would you even ask? Seriously?
So I am going
you
to
asked many weeks ago.
I'm therefore going to assume that what I'd like to ask is, did you have fun? And I think the answer is yes. But if anyone feels differently, please say so now.
Nah, it's fucking horrible. Never had a worse experience for 106 episodes of my life.
I love to suffer through 2.5 years of not fun.
Yeah.
I just love. I lied. The horror.
We like
of getting up
pain.
at 2:30 in the morning just to dislike what I'm doing.
I mean,
If ever there was a time to like gracefully bow out, it would have been when April moved to the other side of the planet. And yet here she is.
Yeah.
Don't get rid of me.
No, I did when we met up in Melbourne, and April was like, "Yeah, no, I got the job. Don't tell anyone." I was like, "Are you leaving us?" She was like, "No."
Nah, I'm doing you. We'll be for another however long we keep playing.
So I guess if we go right back to the beginning, I'm curious. When I asked each of you to do this, at the time, why did you say yes? It's out of you, April. April, I think you were actually the first to respond.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. That probably answers your question. I love Dungeons and Dragons so much. The last campaign I was playing was when I was back in Vancouver. This is before times pre-COVID, a while ago. And it was me and two guys I still speak to regularly. They were like holding Dungeons and Dragons games at like a local comic book store we all went to, and we just all randomly signed up, and it was us and like 3 teenagers, and like we played that campaign for like 2 years. So losing that when I moved from Vancouver because it just sort of dissipated, that really sucked. So when you reached out to me, I was just like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons again.
So how much time passed between that campaign and ours?
Let's see. I'd moved to LA and we were still playing for a little bit, and then when COVID hit, we stopped. So I want to say about 7 months, 8 months, close to a year between that campaign and the start of ours, because that's when I was in Humpty Doo when we started playing.
Yeah,
Back in the do. So I've been through quarantine and stuff.
COVID refugee.
Yeah.
Kynwyn, what about you?
I'm trying to remember because I think it's probably been firmly established throughout our campaign that I have a memory worth $0. I think I remember you messaged me on Twitter, and I hadn't been following you that long. Because I started following you because Sean McKeever said, "Hey, you're an Australian and you like birds, and I know an Australian who likes birds, and you should follow him." So I did, and then I think it must have been not very long after that you sent me a message about playing D&D, and I think it was just perfect timing because like we were some ways into the pandemic. I wasn't super interested in hanging out with people in real life, and also all of my friends had started having children, and so like the people I did like seeing in real life were not available regularly anyway. And I'd sort of been intrigued by Dungeons and Dragons. I'd tried to play it a few times before, and it had never gone particularly well because, you know, some people you don't have great chemistry with, and some dungeon masters are douchebags, and also like the maths is very scary for me. So yeah, so I was just like, oh, you know, this sounds cool. I'll give it a crack, and we are still here.
Zindy, what about you?
Yo, so before you got into contact with me, my entire career of tabletop was like getting airdropped into a bunch of friends when I went to visit my partner in Seattle. So that was like sort of like the one-shottiest of one-shots kind of thing. And I wasn't really playing. They helped me. They basically built my character for me, and I was like, okay, we're in combat, what do? And they were like, this. And so like it was I was basically coming in blind to tabletop. Oh, I'd done one Pathfinder Society as well, which was very frustrating and confusing.
Yeah, it can be, even compared to regular Pathfinder Society can be.
I mean, it was fun. And it was at a proper friendly local gaming store, so like, you know, the experience. But yeah, the only sort of point of reference I had was I knew that I'm capable of destroying any semblance of sensibility in a game because of this one that was supposed to be like a grim, gritty, post-apocalyptic sort of. I don't remember if there was zombies, but it was supposed to be grim and gritty. And through my joking around on the side and everybody just being amused enough to pick it up, it turned into the bad guy was the pogo stick riding butt sex pope, and it was very, very much not the tone that it had originally intended to be. So when you asked me, I'm like, I wonder what kind of game he wants to run, because I'm not sure that I can keep myself nailed down. So I cautioned you. I was like, listen, I'm interested because, like, why not? I haven't really done tabletop, and like I'm the kind of person who will just do something crazy and jump into something that I don't really have much of a grip on.
Actually, I've brought up our original Twitter conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Our discussion of time zones and so forth, but you say, in terms of wanting to play, I'm delighted by the idea, but also aware that I am not the most seasoned D&Der and also can be disruptive in a comedic kind of way.
Yes. See, this is I'm recalling accurately, and yeah, because I'm thinking, like, man, if he wants to run like a proper serious, you know, graceful, majestic, epic thing, and I'm here, you know, giggling because I've decided that a dude, you know, has this particular personality or something, and I did do that a couple of times in your game where I renamed someone. You were like, oh, for fuck's sake. But yeah, I decided you sort of encouraged me back a little bit, and I was like, okay, maybe I can keep myself nailed down. And I mean, I made Morzod, so question marks. But I certainly don't freaking regret it.
Oh no, I mean, I don't regret asking you. I loved the energy you brought to our game.
Well, look, I mean, that's the best outcome anyone could hope for, isn't it? But yeah.
And Doug, you are the only person here who had actually met me before this.
It's true. It's true. And I mean, ultimately I said yes because I love the sound of my own voice. No, that's not
because
entirely
I love
true.
the sound of your voice as well. So, like, we've had a discovery here. We've all grown.
But also because we had sort of played in some campaigns before, and I know you're a good DM, so I was excited to play with you again. Particularly given that I had done some maturing between then and here, and was less of an asshole of a player, which was great. Not
This
not
is you
we were talking
on
about-
like kindly.
yeah. This
Everyone
is
immediately was just like,
We were talking about this on my art stream, actually. Apparently, you used to be that guy.
could be that guy.
You're a reformed that guy.
Mm.
We were talking about it in that because I do the tabletop Warhammer stuff quite often, the point is to win.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you're playing against the DM, the point is to win, as opposed to collaborative storytell, which is a much more pleasant experience. So I was excited to do some of that, and I'm glad we were here. And hopefully my shenanigans bard did not derail us too badly.
No, not at all.
love the territories.
And I don't think I might have forgotten something, but I don't think I've had to ban any of you from picking any races or characters, generally speaking, because of Doug's actions, which I had to do in my previous Pathfinder campaign.
Wait, what?
Well,
I played a flying character and it messed up a few.
Oh, that always,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
Yeah,
first it
direct
was the
recruit.
summoner. First it was the summoner.
That's true.
And then I eventually said, look, okay, no more pet-based no more pet-based player characters. It is too much. But I think we had like 6 players in the party anyway, so
It was a busy party.
there was just so much on the board. And then you picked Strix, who are the flying characters, and because I was running adventure campaigns back then, the published ones by Paizo, and the one I was doing, it had like a hedge maze to explore. And how did
Flying character, yeah.
what do you do with that when one of your characters can fly? It was not designed for I don't think it was actually designed when they had flying playable races in it. So yeah, and you're
You
also
were a precedent.
and you had that flyby attack ability where you could actually fly in, attack, and fly out of range again, and just sit up there.
Like owls in D&D, but a whole player character?
But a whole
player character with a battle
nice.
axe. Yeah, it was a bit rough.
There's stuff you can do in Pathfinder.
But I mean, that was the Warhammer player coming out, right? Like what is the most efficient tactic available to me?
Optimal.
What's the meta pick?
Yeah.
But as I say, then I decided to play Bard, and then I somehow, to some extent, optimized Bard a little bit. But it's okay.
You did silvery barbs the heck out of it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that was a spell pick that was a little tactical.
But you're going fighter.
That's beautiful. I need a Silvery Barbs Do It Again t-shirt.
But you're going fighter campaign too, so that's a turnaround.
I am. I'm going to cast Axe regularly, which will be
Good
great.
spell.
And then I'll go through my
spell.
spell list and I'll pick Axe again.
Yeah.
And that'll basically be the combat for me, This is perhaps getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I'm looking forward to, kind of in the same way that I know, April, you and I were doing with our spell components and stuff like that when we were casting shit. I'm kind of looking forward to doing that with fighting. So I suspect once I've picked a weapon and I know exactly, sort of how Duncan's fighting style is going to play out, I'm looking forward to doing some Googling and some research to explore those fighting styles and, narrative up. I hit it with my axe with a little bit more oomph.
And actually, we can.
What? How many attacks do you get by the end of it? Like 3 attacks or something as a fighter?
I don't know, 3, 4, depends.
1,000?
Just say you already
12 if you
get
get samurai, right?
I think depending on like action surge and that sort of thing, you can get up to 6 hits in one turn.
Yeah, it gets pretty
My level
ludicrous.
fighter just doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of ocean-based horrors you throw at us.
Yeah, and April, you're still going to be a spellcaster, but a very different type of spellcaster.
Yes, I don't think I've ever played a druid before. I've controlled a druid for a DM I was playing with because he had so many characters, and I was like, I will puppet the druid for you. And it was like, I get all the spells, and I'm just like, what is all this green shit? What's a shillelagh? Like, where's my wizard spells? I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, I'm very excited. I would like in the past couple of weeks when we were like sorting out characters, I'd be standing in the shower, like going through different voices, trying to figure out what he's gonna sound like.
Yo, I still haven't picked a voice for Todd, and that's bothering me.
Look, I went through the full range of like South African game warden to like what I've settled on, which
sick.
is like California Dreamin' Beach Boy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, that's a druid. That's absolutely.
So we're going to be doing a lot
Also,
of like
from the picture,
wipeouts.
he looks
Yeah, he's
very
Sandy Beach Boy.
Californian.
California Dreamin'. We're doing
Mhm.
Californication, so he's going to be like a beach boy from like 1993.
But back
Nice.
to campaign 1, April, you made Aussie a wizard, I gather, because you always play wizards, basically.
Almost always play wizards. I love wizards. I have played other classes, but I always go back to wizards in the end. They are, it's not like spells in D&D. Like they're not as complicated a class as people think they are, because they don't have it's not like an arcane trickster or something when it's like an awful combination of like
Mhm.
fighty, stabby, thinking about all those extra dice and what they do in the math, and then also the complexity of spells. Like wizards just straight up just like do the spells.
Yeah, I mean, I came to D&D 5th edition from Pathfinder, where wizards, you don't have spell slots. You have to decide how many times will I be able to cast Fireball tomorrow and memorize it that many times.
Jesus.
It's even if it's Pathfinder wizardry. It's in 2nd edition also. It is much stricter. That so, coming to fifth edition, wizard is actually nice and simple from where I'm standing.
Yeah, it's pretty just from a narrative
The
perspective.
class
Like,
that I
really-
am in
Okay.
Pathfinder is also wizardy, and I was so bad at it. My GM was like, you know what? We're making you a spontaneous caster. Just
Yeah.
Sorry.
And yeah, because in 2nd edition, there you can take a spontaneous casting feat for a wizard, but it actually limits the number of spells you can cast of each
Yeah,
level.
we're 1st edition. I have no idea what's going on.
Oof. First
Yeah, it's
edition,
nasty.
First
It's
edition's
nasty.
even harder than 2nd edition.
Yeah.
What I do like about 2nd edition is how they've simplified the actions. So you get 3 action points, spend them however you want, and everything you do costs a certain number of action points, including
That's nice.
movement, fighting,
like
drinking a
that.
potion, and it's so much simpler to follow,
Damn.
even though it's still very complicated and you've got all these
Mm.
different combinations. But things like a simple spell, you can actually say, all right, I'm actually going to stand perfectly still and spend all 3 of my action points just to cast this spell, and that'll make it a bit stronger because you're not doing anything else.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's got some really
Damn.
nice features. Its main drawback is that it's still very maths heavy.
Mm.
Yeah,
is-
I'm not gonna be playing Pathfinder anytime soon. I can't count.
No,
I love
we will stay here
where
where the dice rolls for us.
Yeah, exactly. Like from a narrative perspective too, I just love wizards. I love the
Hmm.
idea of like being born into this world where magic exists and there's people around you who can just innately do it, but you can't. So you have to study, and you study for a long time to just be anywhere near their level. And it's the best, and it just makes for such interesting characters. I think all wizards go through like a power hungry arc, which is always really funny. They even said it in Baldur's Gate. They're just like, wizards are always so power hungry. And I was like, yes, they are. Like, I get it. I would be too if I had to do that. And my friend was a sorcerer and his dragon dad bought him a mansion and he could just do magic. I'd be pissed too. Like, it's the best. I love it. I love wizards.
They're just shitty little guys.
They just have
Um,
a lot of complexes.
that kind one, why rogue?
I thought it would be the easiest, and I was right. Yeah. Also, I thought it would be easiest, and I thought it would be useful because I think I probably picked one of mine. I think I probably picked Dagmar's role last, or behind the others. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, we need someone who can open doors. Alas, Dagmar was not very good at roguing, but it's fine.
Well,
Turned out Interestingly,
Sneak attack is a big part of roguing. And
sneak attack is
yeah.
my favorite thing that has ever happened. But yeah, as well, because I did not do a lot of research on anything going in. So when it came time to level up, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. So I built the least roguey rogue that has ever rogued, and I thought that was super fun.
And I
Because
think
normally I play rangers, like not in D&D or whatever, but in any role-playing game where there is a ranger option, I'm a ranger.
and
So I think
that is a perfectly legitimate way to play D&D, to just pick what you want, to pick what would the character do? What was the character getting better at? Rather than how do I win D&D?
It felt counterintuitive for Dagmar to be good at all of the stuff a rogue would be good at. Like, I think she just had like a bunch of skills that she sort of just started developing in a certain direction. Like, she just turned into a total jock, which I loved.
Mm. And Zinti, did you choose cleric, or was that recommended to you?
I did choose cleric. Because the first time that I made Morzod in one of those, I got thrown in with my I just sort of reuse characters if I can, because I'm sort of comfy with them a bit. Now, the first time I did Morzod, all he had was his mechanics. He didn't actually really have a great deal of personality, so that's all like fresh for AntipoDnD. But the first time that I ever rolled a Morzod, I was like, you know what I want? I want to have like the Healy god type dude, but just like ludicrous smash. So I said to the numbers guy, look, can you do me some kind of ridiculously strong cleric? And he was like, yeah, I think I could do something with that. So I just had this immensely powerful, like disgustingly strong cleric. That was also the very first time that I ever did the DM, can I hit that guy with this guy that I just incapacitated? That was fun.
Which you can do in Baldur's Gate 3.
I've heard that it is so D&D, and
Yep.
I want to get involved with the Bald Gate, but my car is unregistered at the moment, so I got a list of priorities. But anyway, so yeah, when I was like, oh god, what do I do for D&D? I was like, all right, we'll do this smashy cleric again, sure. And this time I actually like put more thought into him because it wasn't going to be a one shot, and Morzod happened. So yeah, it was intentional for him to be a cleric who can punch your face in.
And now, in terms of Morzod going from cleric to paladin, which was it was sort of my suggestion, but I think it was also sort of a group suggestion.
It just made sense.
Yeah, just seeing how you were playing him.
Well, yeah, because I had no idea how to play a cleric. That's the thing. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm being a cleric because conceptually it's a fun idea. But with my lack of D&D knowledge, I did not know anything about how the fuck I was supposed to be clericing. I wasn't even really clear on what sort of role in the party a cleric actually is, because they're not like your white mage, really.
Yeah, they're very sort of utility. They do all of the. They're almost the other wizard of the party. Certainly, healing can be a big part of what clerics do, and it often is. But they're really about sort of altering the battlefield, changing perception, and just. They are utility characters in many ways.
I had no idea, really.
So they can be fairly tricky to get a handle on.
Nobody warned me.
And I was thinking...
Yeah, I want to say clerics are definitely probably one of the more difficult classes, just with how much you have to balance.
Yeah, and I was thinking, hey, if Morzod just wants to hit things, there's a class for a divine follower who likes hitting things.
It also, though, like, thematically was a pretty good time for it to happen, because he was starting to twig that there wasn't really a god brew, and, like, maybe he needed to sort of have a real think about what he was doing and why. So like, yeah, the change to Paladin, like, mechanically it helped. You definitely, I think you guys saw me figure out a lot more strongly what the heck I was doing.
Especially once you got sort of the hang of how smiting works. You started
lot of
carrying
smashing.
You started carrying fights after that.
Yeah, it was cool.
My favorite Paladin thing was when I remembered that I had the block someone who's getting hit when Rala nearly took on. I was like, oh shit, that's a Paladin thing, and I know I can do it, and I did it, and it was good.
Yeah. So, I actually have a list here. So, first episode. Well, actually, the first session.
I was going to say zero?
Yeah, we had a 0 and a 0.5. So 0 was just us talking. It was the first time we all met in pretty much in this format, just sitting around on Discord and talking about ideas, characters, expectations. If anybody's watching this and is thinking of running a game at some point, session 0 is a must. Get on board with your players, find out what they want, what they expect, and be prepared to, as a dungeon master, to shift your plans a bit to make sure that everybody's going to be having a good time, including you as the dungeon master, because we are not technically called players in the context of Dungeons and Dragons, but we are still playing the game with everyone else, and we should still be having fun with everyone else. So we had that session 0. I then decided to have session 0.5, which would be a trial run. This is partly a tech rehearsal for me because I was running OBS while recording and also doing all the dungeon mastering stuff, and I just needed to know I could do it. And that was also where we had essentially the origin story for your characters meeting each other. Is also where we met Rala Swift. And one of my few regrets is that that her introduction isn't, actually on YouTube. It's not part of the show. So basically, our 4 characters.
So for people watching, she just sort of came out of nowhere.
Not quite. She
was just already there.
The first official episode, you were on the boat, approaching the Wandering Isles when the Titan attacked.
Oh yeah, so she was sort of there.
Yeah. So session 0.5 was where you're in Port Veron up in Gold, and the 4 of you have assembled on the boat because you've heard it's going to the Wandering Isles, and you want passage for your various reasons, and the boat's ready to go, and you're all just waiting for Captain Swift or wherever she's gotten to. And her introduction was her running down the wharf with a bunch of angry guards chasing after her, shooting crossbows, and her just screaming launch as she runs, and just jumping and catching a rope. I think it's catching a rope trailing behind the boat and climbing up, and then basically saying, well, welcome aboard, where are we going?
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
And I think it was then pirates. That's it. I just had you fight.
It was like zombie pirate ship?
No, it was just pirates, I think, in the first session. Just some straight up, look, I'll throw some pirates at you. This is, again, session 0.5. This is, again, just so that we can get the hang of the mechanics of it.
No,
I feel like we fought zombies.
It was a little ghost.
zombies.
It was a little ghost ship, and it had the zombie water on it.
Oh, so it was.
Yeah, and then my
right.
connection dropped out, and I went missing for like the entire fight.
So it was them. Okay, cool. Yeah, I had forgotten that. Yeah. Yeah, so
that's why when the zombie water came back in
we were all like,
Prospect, we were like,
We were
oh,
like,
fucks,
oh, no.
fucks. And in fact, you gave us Mozart, you recognize this shit.
That's right, yeah.
This man drowned.
The water, the necrotic water, that went through a number of iterations for me. My original idea, before I'd really started plotting out the campaign and working out the problems, I actually had this idea of the of it essentially being an enormous gelatinous cube, or an ooze essentially, that lived underwater, was controlled by a lich, a drowned lich essentially, and it just had these tendrils of ooze that were practically invisible unless you knew exactly what you were looking for in the ocean. And
I already don't like the ocean, and that.
it changed a lot as I realized, hey, that I can associate this with the lich eventually became the goddess of undeath, and the ooze eventually became her power essentially. But yeah, I wasn't sure I was going to bring that back immediately, but obviously I did.
You did.
Big
And it was
bag.
a good tie-in as well, because we're like, oh fucks.
I do like bringing things back when I can. The
That's fun.
first proper session then, Tempest Fugit, or Fugit, I called it, was you arriving at the Wandering Isles only to be attacked by Gemdanon's Titan. And we had the departure of
True,
Rala
so
Swift
rude.
jumping into its mouth, very Jack Sparrow
Caribbean,
style.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that episode had you washed ashore, and you ended up in the Watchful Wood.
Yeah, we had spiders.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
Terracus got done by a spider.
Got bit
And-
by a spider, yeah.
Yep, you met.
The big
The big net casting spiders, also called
love those guys.
ogre faced spiders,
They're so cute.
which I put on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we
And-
saw the spiders on the map, and we're like, that looks like a good place.
Oh,
Let's go
let's
through
go
there.
Mm-hmm.
Though at the time you only had the crudely drawn map
Mm.
that you found on the
Yeah.
boat that you'd escaped on. It was just something, with ink spears and something. Everything. I don't think it actually had any of the details on it.
We were also traveling with a dwarf who we rescued.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was the first time we saw the mighty Morzod backpat of healing. You guys were like, how do you revive this guy? Wake up!
The gentle touch.
Like, yeah, look,
And
that's how you
then
wake up, bro.
episode 2 was the road to Providence. You heading into Providence, getting the pass, which I kind of forgot about, the certificate to allow you to cast magic in town. I didn't exactly
Oh,
forget
yeah.
about it, but
I mean, shit happens.
yeah, as the way I sort of retcon it is eventually the council at some point realized, hey, we're sort of past the whole wizards are inherently evil thing. Let's just let people cast magic and just have a general law. If you hurt someone or do something, however you do it, you'll be in trouble. We won't be particularly harsh on with magic users. But that was the episode that ended with, so you went to the Coruscant Academy, you got your license, you left the Coruscant Academy, and there was an explosion. And I've talked to a few of you about this. I'm not sure whether all of you know this. That explosion happened because I had no idea how to keep you all together. I was hoping that at some point in the first 2 episodes, your characters would come up with a reason to stay together, to think of, hey, we've got this issue, let's go and, I will help you resolve your issue, or, we've heard about this problem, let's go and solve it, and we're all just about to go all your separate ways. And I thought, I just hit panic stations, and so, okay, if I blow something up, then I don't know, maybe I can have them all accused of doing it, and I can lock them up for a little bit, and that'll give me time. But I then had a week to decide, okay, why did something explode? And next thing we knew, you
Big
all...
mood.
Yeah.
Big mood.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up
Yeah, I
being
didn't
such
know
a
that.
story beat, yeah.
Next thing we knew, you all had Zurasa in your head.
And we
Yeah,
got
see,
Sarasa.
I would never have guessed that was sort of an almost on the fly thing. I was
Me
when
neither.
that was, I was like, man, that is a genius way to just prevent splitting the party. Holy shit! This is
Especially, yeah,
great.
because like Orsi was not ready to make friends. Vitericus was
No.
out for himself. Dagmar was not ready to admit that she did not know what she was doing, and Morzard was going to go to a pub.
Yeah.
That pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
And this is in no way your fault as players. This was me as a dungeon master, sort of learning at the time. Oh, these players need a reason for their characters to stay together. That's on me more than it's
We
on
could have
you.
split into 4 simultaneous storylines. We could have just cut between them for the like Game of Thrones all the way through. These characters never meet again.
But yeah, so it was during that intervening week that I came up with the character of Zarasa, the idea that if any of you go too far from the rest of you, then it'll weaken you to the point you might even die, so you have to stay physically close to each other.
I really liked that as a don't split the party, because like usually it is just a sort of an honor system.
Like, please don't wander off.
Yeah, but having an actual in-character reason to justify it was beautiful, because I didn't have to figure out some way that why Morzard didn't go to the pub.
Why does Morzard, the only nice one with an ethical
Bone in his body.
want to hang out with 3 demented weirdos?
I
who
mean,
are all very self-involved.
To be fair, friends.
Yeah.
We weren't friends yet.
Oh, you were Morzard's friends.
We made friends on the boat.
Even if we didn't know it, we
Dagmar
were
would have
Morzard's
just
friends.
followed Morzard to the pub, and that would have been how our story unfolded.
Actually, yeah, we could have probably not split that party.
Yeah. Tall one, short one, hanging out across the aisles.
Classic.
So, and I obviously, having created this dilemma, I needed a way to resolve it. So I sort of just looked at my map and went, okay, well, I know what's happening up here. I know what's happening over there. I need a place where I've got nothing, and I'll just send them there and come up with a thing for them to do by the time they get there. And I picked Mirror's Reach because I had nothing for Mirror's Reach. And then I remembered, they could go via Mercer's Pass. I haven't, and I was always planning, okay, Mercer's Pass is very dangerous. There's horrible abominations in there. If they go that way, that could be a fun way to throw them into combat, to really get some serious fighting done.
And trauma bonding.
And you did go that way, which was excellent, because that actually gave me a few more weeks to work on Mirror's Pass and Mirror's Reach and work out what the hell was going on down there.
And then you learnt that the way for you to get time for yourself was to simply put a store anywhere.
Or a boat.
I want to
Or a
browse
boat.
the trinkets.
Yes, let us browse the options.
So actually, episode 3 was Zurasa. Episode 4 was you started heading towards Mirror's Reach. That's where you encountered, on the way there, you encountered the enraged Diprotodon. So that was the first appearance of the red weed.
Oh yeah, that was that's an Aussie crit on his
Yeah,
witch bolt.
with the witch bolt.
Right.
Yeah, it was like there
Good.
was a Diprotodon here.
Oh.
Then episodes 5 to 6 was Mercer's Pass, and eventually Fern Glen after that horror show.
Yeah, at the end of episode 6 was when we started making friends.
And of course, episode 7 is the one where I completely screwed up and failed to record any of your audio while we were doing the split screen view, which so I actually had to go back and narrate all of those missing scenes. But that was the episode where you met Enkaros the Roma, the Minotaur.
And
One that we did like slide drawings for.
Yes.
I feel like yeah, it was just a chunk of it that we missed.
No, the drawings were for later when we did a recap of how you first met.
Yeah,
But,
that was
I know, Zinda, you did a few really cute sketches of
It was one of the double Enkaros.
Yes, yeah. Actually, Dagmar, Kindwin, you did one too of Dagmar and Enkaros. Dagmar just sort of looking up and going, "Wow, you're really tall."
Yes, I
Yeah, I
dabbled in a
remember.
Snoopy style.
Yes. Oh my god, yes, I remember that.
Dagmar the
Gorgeous.
peanut.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
You've done the peanut and you've done the Calvin and Hobbes one, and they've both just been the most charming motherfucking
Winners.
thing that I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
I was just like, Dagmar is tiny. I must model her off something else tiny.
Something else that is tiny. That's how that works.
Plus, as well, Morzodol is also conveniently Hobbes shaped. So I just Dagmar and,
Yeah.
and then
It's all about balance.
brought me joy.
Mm-hmm.
I was also when I had a new iPad, so I was like, ooh, I'm a drawer.
Yee, toys.
So happily, at the end of all of this, this is by this time I'd figured out, what was happening at Mirror's Reach, and I'd got the map of Mirror's Reach ready and the map of the Ginault Palace. Or I think the palace itself was mostly done. I was just prettying it up at this point. But I knew I had the fungal dungeon for you to find your way through first of all.
Yes.
fungy dungeon.
The fungin.
The first time that
Someone's
Vitericus
gonna die.
died.
Oh, fun.
I didn't die. I just almost died on that
No,
one.
I think
You were on death rolls.
I was
Yeah,
I was on death saving throws, but I wasn't dead.
Yeah.
I crit failed a death saving throw. I was very, very close to dead,
That's it.
Yep,
but we
dead from
didn't have
bugs
to
in your
use a
pants.
diamond yet. Yeah.
No.
The
And
diamonds that we didn't have.
and since
And
And-
Engadon made her first
yeah,
appearance.
because
Mhm.
Doug said, "Hey, can we get Vitericus having an out of body experience of looking down on his fallen body?" And I thought, "Oh yeah, and actually,
Oh, yeah.
He is a hot, scary babe.
yeah, because I at this point had already established in my mind that there was a pre-existing relationship between whatever was going on with Vitericus and why I could see shades, and Engadon, the goddess of undeath. And I thought this would be a fun way to plant the first seeds of that relationship without going into any detail.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that foreshadowing. I was like, holy shit, that's the foreshadowiest foreshadow, and I love it. Can't
That's
wait to
good.
see what's going to happen to that. I was
And
well
Nearly
into it.
dying at the opportune moment seems to have been a character note for Vitericus.
Yeah.
Quite the
He
winner on
did
that one,
pursue
yeah.
death very vigorously.
Zero
at
hit
every
points at,
opportunity.
at exactly the right moments.
How many
Mm-hmm.
hit points did he even have then?
Hang on.
You were
Then
probably you had like 6 rat bites at that point. Like you and
Good
Orsi
question, what
were
would I have had then?
so flimsy.
It would have been
Yeah.
more than that. You would have been
double digits, but not by much.
I'd say at least level 3 by that point, because you were level. I think you were level 2. I started you at level 2 in episode 1, so you were level 1 for the for session 0.5, and just to quickly learn the ropes, and then I said, okay, you're level 2 when you're starting the story proper, so that you're not completely squishy when we go into it. Because I knew I would be throwing like net casting spiders at you and stuff like that, and I think
It was
after
still very squishy.
I think I decided everything in Mercer's Pass was enough to bump you up to level 3.
This entire campaign, my partner has been so jealous because his 5e that he's been doing, they're doing it milestone as well, but like in the 2 years that we were doing this one, he got maybe 2 levels.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they were really keeping a tight grip on that shit. So I was like, oh, we leveled up. He's like, oh.
No. We had very well doled out milestones. I
Yeah,
thought.
look, comparative to what he was telling me, I'm like, holy shit, we are so well paced.
Yeah, that is extra slow what they're doing. That's crazy.
That's rough,
Yeah.
because leveling up is one of the biggest rewards you get in the game, and one of the reasons to keep on playing and to keep coming back. I think.
To be fair, they had a rate of play at half of ours. They were doing it only every second week, but still, he was just so upsetty.
I would say that they would need to level up even faster if they were playing half our speed.
playing slow.
Yeah.
I have a number if you want to know how many rat bites Vitericus could take at level 3. I've made a copy
Please.
of him in D&D Beyond and brought his level back down to 3 just for fun. 21 rat bites was what he could take.
Oh my god.
Interesting.
Little
I
fella.
have because just before
Little
you said
guy.
that, I was thinking, I feel like he took 21 points of damage and that brought him to 0. And now you're saying you had 21 hit points, so it
So,
might,
yeah, that
That
checks
would be it.
out.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There
those
was,
that swarm really nibbled him.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was the quadriceps zombies. This is before Last of Us got its own TV show,
Mm.
and I never played the game. I only knew about
I have a good cordyceps. They're great.
I only knew about them
Mhm.
from wildlife documentaries.
I've always been worried about fungus, and yeah, this didn't help.
And some of them were exploding also, and that was the first time glow was popped.
Yeah. She really hasn't been popped that many times. Like, probably can count on one hand.
Before we were coming in, though, I was thinking about that because, like, way early on, I actually asked if I could have a goanna, and in fact, all the way up to the Gibraltar ruins, we did actually have Barry with us, and I'm like,
Yeah.
actually, it's pretty amazing that he didn't get popped because he was just a lizard. I'm so glad he didn't. But yeah, I was thinking about Glow in the lead up to this chat. I'm like, oh, yeah, so she did go pop a couple of times, didn't
I
she?
mean, yeah, I'm like, Wizards aren't my first radio, so generally when to keep my familiars out of trouble, but like, I can't do anything about exploding fungus when someone steps on it.
So between the fungal dungeon and the Genot Palace itself, that was 5 episodes, 5 sessions that you were down there.
Yeah.
Yes, we spent a while down there, didn't we? It was good.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do.
There was a lot to do.
Actually, I'll bring back the map of the Genot Palace if I can find it. I'm sure I've got it in here somewhere. Because I worked on that for a long time.
It was a good map
was
too. It had lots
Very
of
good map.
twists and turns and
Very
things to overcome.
circles. Very
Mhm.
pretty. Lots of tiles.
Yeah, it was really pretty.
Maybe, okay, I'll turn off
I
token
appreciate
vision,
circles.
fog exploration, so you should just be able to see it all nice and clearly now. Yeah, actually, I think this was either this or the fungal dungeon was around the time that we switched to Foundry. It must have been the fungal dungeon. Actually, I think we were halfway through the fungal dungeon when I decided to move from... I can't even remember what we were using to play online. But doing research, I heard about Foundry VTT, and I thought, one that I can host locally on my computer so I can set it all up. And so the only technical issue is whether you can connect to me, not whether all of us can connect to some service that somebody else is running on another computer. Just take one link out of the chain.
Oh, we were using Astral.
Might have been
Yeah,
Astral.
we were using
It
Astral.
was Astral.
It was Astral, yeah.
Because I had to use a second laptop to run Foundry until I got my new laptop because it was too powerful for my old MacBook Air to run at the same time as Discord.
Yeah, we were running Astral, which I was preferring to the Roll20 that we were using for Pathfinder, and I'd be complaining all the time, man, in Astral we could do, and my DM would be like, yeah, but we're in Roll20.
Yeah, and Astral no longer exists now. Went into maintenance mode in late 2021 and shut down about a year later.
Sad.
But yeah, so I've still got my home party on the Genot Palace. I've just realised. Yeah,
I was gonna say, who's DDZ?
Yeah, so you've got his mum's Tortle. There's that's Quee, and you've got Duff's dwarf. You've got Hamfast, who's the half orc rogue. You've got the wizard, whose names I can't remember at the moment, and there's a dragonborn and a human fighter. Party of 6 for home, which
big.
Yeah, not a fan of large parties, I've decided.
No, it's really hard to manhandle large parties.
Yeah, but I had a lot of fun doing the mosaics for this map. Oh yes, and the golden throne for the golden emperor.
The golden throne.
So my favourite part of the Genelton Ruins was finding the enormous cask, taking a drink of the wine and seeing God.
Yes,
That
that's
was
right.
cool.
This was your first encounter with Bruin Lark, wasn't it?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
That's also when Viterica slapped Orsi, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
because
is.
he was being all shook.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rude.
You're like, well,
He gave him a hysterical 50s slap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Get a hold of yourself, woman.
yeah.
Orsi is prone to male hysteria.
Look, it was excellent, and it really started establishing their dynamic.
I do love them dearly.
And yeah, and you eventually put Zarasa into the body that she had constructed for herself some 800 years earlier, as a proof of concept to her emperor to say, "Hey, you can do this too. You can be immortal too."
I had a serious moment though when it was revealed that she was wheelchair bound, and that she was making a body with legs. I just
and then realized that she actually had no idea how to walk once she had the body.
Yeah.
I teared up. That really got me.
And you were able to resolve sort of the situation with the spectral war, the endless fighting
Yeah, I
that was
thought we
going
were
on between
dead.
these ghosts.
Shit, that was the first time we saw Vidi diplome the shit out of something.
Yeah, we
Mm.
saw Doug go full Vitaricus, and it was wild.
Yeah.
First big taste of the horrors that he would unleash upon our poor dungeon master.
I remember seeing that. I was like, Doug has the biggest brain.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course,
I'd never seen somebody galaxy brain in
real
D&D
time?
before, and yeah, just watching that happen in real time was just like, whoa, what is this guy?
of course, I then paid him back with his own horrific visage of the Emperor turning into a Soul Legion.
Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, we can go now. Let's leave. Out now. Time to go.
That's all there is.
Yeah.
Bye.
Why? What's wrong, Vitaricus? No, nothing.
No, fine, it's fine.
Out. Thanks. Need to be outside right now.
And then it all came back in the end.
And then we climbed out and met that guy that was really cool with us putting him in an amulet for...
I think he was cool with it.
First, we had a one-shot that April ran on the edge of the primordial sea.
Hey, my little... I hope everyone enjoyed that. That was a little...
That was so fun.
We did.
It was
yeah.
intriguing, and like we got like a chunk of lore, and I'm like, but there's more here, and we don't get to see what it is.
I do apologize for the giant cetacean.
It's just.
Yep, and then we did come back with you crawling out of the hole, and you met my mum playing Kui. There was also when you when Vitaricus ended up in the mouth of the Megalania.
Yeah. Well, the second time he got ate by something.
That's a great little... In the mouth of the Megalania is a great just little phrase.
Yeah, that's a good phrase. I like that.
Sounds like a horror novel, and I would read it.
I mean,
or
either
a
that
trashy
or a
romance novel. Yeah.
or a ride at Disneyland.
Or like DLC for
Definitely a
Tale.
monster fucker.
Hey.
I mean, a significant amount of us are monster fuckers here. It's all fine.
It's a very well-selling romance genre. So, if anyone feels like writing it, there's a lucrative market.
In the mouth of the.
Then it was back to Mira's Reach, running Salmi out of town.
Salmi!
Our friend.
She started it.
Then the next
That was on her. Yeah.
next episode, episode 15, I titled Mad Dag's Fury River, which was
We went goblining, right?
I lost my shit at the witness me goblin.
And
made
we had that
my
manky goblin
time
bot
period.
for like a year and a half or something.
yeah.
Yeah, just
really
hanging out
long
in
time.
Vidi's pants.
Yeah.
Would have
But
exploded
then when you
any
used
time.
it, it was the best fucking moment, and I'm like, the goblin bomb, the goblin bomb. it was so worth it.
Then and you decided, yes, not to go back via Mercer's Pass, understandably.
It's a silly place.
So you had a couple of episodes in Rivermeet.
We sampled wine
You
on the
Is
way.
Met
that
Baldrin.
where? Is that
met
where we
Baldrin?
got?
No,
Wait,
Baldrin was after. He was not at the same time as the wine.
Oh yeah,
No,
the
No,
wine
that
was
was
on the
Romsey
way
and
to
then Rivermeet.
Rivermeet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rome's on
Yeah.
the way, and we got Vitericus got the manta ray cloak in that
Yeah.
area, right?
That was in
Which
Mercer's
turned out
Pass.
so
Yeah.
much more useful than it seemed like it was going to be.
Yeah, the cloak was in the past. It was part of the ruined caravan.
Uh,
Yeah, because it
Um,
was going to Lake Keldrith, right? So we could
Yeah.
explore for
Yeah,
the.
yeah,
Daryl never put that together with the water stuff, and going into the lake.
But Rivermeet was the Colossal Rocks, of course, and it was Baldrins and Bowls Bevs.
that was definitely a highlight for me. I'm a fan of the wild magic
That was
jam.
very fun.
Like just the
And-
RNG and the emu.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's
Aussie
right.
turned into Vitericus. Vitericus turned into an emu.
It was a
Dags
whole
turned into
situation.
Morzod, and Morzod turned into Dags.
Yeah, and Vinny also copped a truth and knew that he'd copped it, but was trying not to let on
I
that
think
he'd
that
copped
was
a truth.
the second time that we went. That was when we came back to Rivermeet, and
And we went for another round.
yeah.
There was
Okay,
also
okay.
the performances at Our Bears Aplenty, the Tavern Theatre.
Oh,
Yeah. And
I love those
Morzod
guys.
romanced two
Well,
women.
no, he got.
They were romanced.
She attempted to pick him up, but he had a date with the god. It was the second time we met them that she was like, "Listen, the first time maybe I wasn't clear."
And that's right, and that's where you met the kobolds.
Hmm.
The surviving kobolds who had defeated the Chaos Stallion that you had all very bravely hidden from.
Yeah.
With the limb farmer.
What about it?
Yes, and scheduling at Albairs Aplenty was proven to be most inconsiderate to storytellers who may or may not have a similar story to tell.
Yeah.
With less heroic events.
That's right. And, of course, it was the first performance of Captain Lovett Darling and his able seamen that you witnessed.
You have no idea how close I came to inviting those guys to the God Party.
Oh,
If we had like an extra day, I would have trained them on a performance of Our Glorious Victory.
Oh, wow. That could have been fun.
And then we would have performed it on like the big round table that we were discussing, like the rules of being a god going forwards.
Amazing.
Which would have been great. But a day is a good amount of time for, invite everyone. That's all right. They can just hear about it secondhand. Not everybody had to be there. Most people were there, but not everybody had to be there.
I mean,
I'm sure
yeah.
Vitericus sent them a note with a suggestion for the next piece with the
Maybe they were
numerous plot
busy.
points
Yeah.
and directions.
Guess it depends on where they are. If they're up in Heron's Perch, I don't know that I'm getting many messages to them anymore.
Hey, yeah, Campaign 2 is coming. Like, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And then, following the road back to Providence would take you through the rather unremarkable town of Golden Ford, which
Say that.
turned out to be empty when you got there, or at least, if only it had been empty when you'd gotten there. That was your first in-person encounter with Engadon and her necrotic water and a great many water zombies. And generally what was happening there was that she caught a whiff of, it must be a better way of phrasing that, she got a sense that Dasha was about, or there was something Dasha liked. She knew there was something about Vitericus that intrigued her.
And annoyed her.
Yeah, well, it grew to annoy her.
Isn't that just it?
But this was Golden Ford was, in her very twisted way, I was going to be a gift to say, hey, look, we can live here. Look how strong I am.
My God, it's like when a cat drops a mouse on your back door.
Yeah, here you go, idiot. I got your
I
present.
murdered this for you.
Love me. Oh, that's what she did.
And so she was genuinely confused there for a bit about what was going on, and eventually realizing, because her first assumption was that maybe Vitiricus was Dasha but had just forgotten who he was. But she then started to think that Vitiricus had somehow kidnapped Dasha or done something to her or something like that. So it became fairly antagonistic for a while, but it was all very complicated, and she was rather confused.
Lots of feelings going around.
Yeah.
This, I feel like Golden Ford also started an excellent trend of the dice just betraying me whenever Engadon was around.
Yeah.
It was perfect storytelling,
you did some
but like
real bad rolls.
every persuasion check, every perception check, it just bottomed out every time Engadon was around, which was perfect.
And I will
Nice.
dungeon mastering tip, and a confession from me. This is one of the very few times, and honestly, I don't remember the other times, so don't even ask me. But this is a time I do remember pulling my punches in order to let a player character live.
Yes, it was Aussie, and
Yeah.
I could absolutely tell that you did that, and I was very appreciative.
Because Engadon had power word kill ready to go. Aussie was the only one in line of sight, and Aussie was outside of the protection of the stable. He was completely exposed. And Engadon was in a mood to kill someone who wasn't Dasha. But I thought that is just not a fun or interesting end to just say, actually, no, I'm going to remove this player character permanently from the story for no reason other than because I can.
I mean, I'm sure you would have. We would have found a way to bring him back as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we might have. We would have done. Like if Orsi had fallen in a fight, certainly. This is true of all of you. If you'd fallen in your fight and you wanted to keep playing that character, I would have found a way. We could have found a way. But to just snuff him out like that just felt wrong in this context.
And he was standing in the rain, and he hadn't had his whole lightning arc yet.
Yeah, and you had,
and that's when Rala came down, so that was nice.
Yes.
And you had not only did you have no way to bring him back, you also would have had no way to take his body with you.
Yeah.
So it felt like it would have been cruel to do it at that point, so I decided not to.
I was on death saving rolls as well inside the hut. That was a very stressful fight. I was convinced we were all gonna die.
It was really cinematic the way it rolled out.
And before, at the top of that encounter, I'd rolled how many turns would it take for Rada to come and save you, and it was basically, though you didn't know it, it was basically, can you survive this long, or how long? How many of you will still be standing when you're saved? Yeah. So that was a triumphant reintroduction of Rala Swift. I knew I wanted to bring her back at some point as the avatar of Gemdanen, but
cool.
I think it was in prepping for this session and seeing that you're all in dire straits, I thought this is actually the perfect time to do it.
This is the moment.
Yeah.
It was so good. Thinking back, that was really cinematic. Like just that whole thing with the lightning and her showing up in the nick of time, and Morzod there keeping Dags alive and that shit. Yeah.
And so she took you to Providence, and next episode, it's called Common Ground, because you finally went to the place that. I had Connie in, I think, episode 2. I had Connie trying to get
Yeah,
you.
we met her
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
I was
early.
on the
Yeah,
Mhm.
selling
piers,
flowers.
giving
Yeah.
us flowers. Yeah.
She was trying to get you to come to common ground, so I could give you your place to stay, and so that you could all meet Desmina and kick off that side of the story. But
No, we wanted to get blown up and
Yeah.
soul bonded.
so it's
Ozzy would not have stayed at an orphanage in episode 2. So,
He was not desperate enough.
no,
Mhm.
not at that point. He was literally coming off the back of being, son of one of the richest families in all of Gold. And
That
now
guy would have
he's-
just signed up to be an orphan, I think. It was like, oh,
It's a good
I mean,
life.
sure, yeah. I'm young for a dwarf.
And next episode was first arena fight, a day of games.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
that was
so
good.
fun.
Love the arena.
to meet Rex, Lynn, and the other
Actually,
guys.
Correct. The
No
next
one.
episode was the prelude, because we're building up to the fight, but then you spent so much time doing other stuff that I realized we're not actually getting to the fight this episode, are we? No? Okay, next episode.
Yeah.
Once again, you
Shopping.
learned that we had to do a lot of prep before we do a
Classic.
fun thing. And then,
Yeah.
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 Classic
And that
Rex.
was when we met Pretty Boy
Yeah, Lover Boy.
Lover boy.
Lover Boy.
and developed an immediate intense hatred.
Mm.
Yeah. So like you characterized him perfectly from the start.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We were like, ooh, target acquired.
Hate him.
Mhm.
Good.
Because like Salmi
We all hate him,
literally
we all hate
threw a fireball at us, and like by the end of it, we're just like, "Oh, you're alright." Like whatever.
Yeah, well, like, Salmi was fun.
She was
Pretty
fun, and she
Boy
seemed
was just a little fuck.
Yeah, she seemed like she had like best friend energy in the making. Pretty Boy did not.
Yeah.
But Lover Boy did not.
So, and this time this was where you really started just sort of settle into Providence and get to know characters, and like have an episode called Gods and Tattoos. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think that's when you all started getting tattoos. Must have been when you met Sabi, actually.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And I think it's when you figured out who Desmina is, who Desmina was, because she was still Nexa, the elderly tiefling, but she would also disguise herself as a child to... She disguised herself as a child to spy on the four of you, to
Yes, that's it.
make sure you were okay, basically, that you weren't going to cause any trouble.
And then I almost got choked out by Engadon, which was perhaps slightly more trouble than she was willing to put up with.
Yeah, and she was concerned for a moment that you brought Engadon there, but when she sort of realized, oh, it's...
I mean, technically we did, but
it wasn't intentional. You're
yeah,
not a
it was
you're,
accident.
you're not a minion of the goddess of undeath.
No.
No, we're her ex-girlfriend.
Then we got into the Tarthian delegation and the Panopticon plot.
That was fun.
When I accidentally decided that a tarantula was a great sized spider to make glow instead of something very small. I like tarantulas.
Yeah, and
Man,
I had my
hubris.
world's most interesting stone that I used as an amazing getaway, except it only worked on me, so
Ah.
Dagmar just stood there staring at it.
Remember that rock?
It's an awesome rock.
Oh,
It's a
it
good
was an
rock.
awesome rock.
It's
It was a
really
good rock.
interesting.
R.I.P.
I hope-
that rock.
I hope that ends up in our tower eventually.
Well, it
Like,
was
what's
lost
that?
amongst the rubble that was the Panopticon.
We
can
can
imagine-
locate objects.
Yeah, that's right. Someone clearing the debris and just like finding it and stopping and staring at it for hours on end.
Like, you found my rock.
Yeah, that's my rock.
It'd-
Thank you very much.
It'd be like that Monty Python sketch with the funniest joke.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Everyone just sort of comes over.
Someone would come and try and find the person who had stopped to look at the rock, and they would also stop and look at the rock.
Mm-hmm.
So that ended, of course, with the crystal shattering, the
Just player character things.
Desmina getting really, really angry, the Tarthians attacking, the power of Desmina starting to essentially tear the city apart, because the Tarthians, that was a bad move on their part. They knew that the crystal was protecting the city. They hadn't worked out that if they destroy the crystal, that doesn't destroy the power. It just destroys the thing that's holding the power.
Mm.
A classic mistake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so Desmina had to take control of the power, which is exactly the kind of thing that they splintered themselves to avoid doing in the first place, because that much divine energy concentrated in one spot is enough to warp reality. So she held on to it for just long enough to drive the Tarthians off, have a chat with the four of you, and bestow her power upon Connie, and make her the new avatar of Desmina, much to Desmina's dismay, because she was hoping to not have to do anything like this until Connie was older. But it was necessary, and she couldn't trust anyone else with it.
That's fair.
If she knew...
We would not have used that power well.
And it's possible she could have chosen you if your relationship had been different at that point. But that didn't happen, of course.
Almost,
By
it felt
you,
like she
you mean
almost
one of
did
us.
a little bit there, right? Particularly with Morzod, there was like a moment of you're already, a receptacle for a certain amount of deific power. But if you weren't...
Yeah. Desmina... So, all through the campaign, I think Desmina was looking at Morzod and saying, look, I think you've picked the wrong god. I mean, because Desmina, not a fan... She doesn't dislike Bruin. It's hard to dislike Bruin, to be honest.
I was going to say, if you dislike Bruin, you're bad and wrong.
But she's sort of going, but look, he's very passive about the troubles, the evils of the world. His approach is simply, look, just kick back and have a good time. And Desmina is thinking, no, sometimes the evil actually has to be fought. You actually have to do so. And Morzod was about that. Morzod was, definitely understood. You can't just always say everything will be okay, she'll be right. Sometimes you actually have to just step in and say, no, you have to stop doing that. And if you don't, I'm going to stop you doing that.
And that was part of the change into the paladin thing, the proactive good times rather than the reactive good times.
Yeah, and Desmina's thinking was, she could see that in Morzod and couldn't see it in Bruin. And she was going, I don't understand what Morzod sees in him.
He's a bro. And
what I like, and that, I'd not planned any of this, I like that Morzod's influence started growing on Bruin Lark. And it was Bruin Lark who ended up sort of saying, sort of looking at Morzod and saying, actually, I think you're doing more than me. You're almost better at this whole, divine power thing than I am. Maybe, you should be doing, maybe I should, encouraging you more to be more of a hero and less of a, just a party boy. But certainly,
he got there.
Yeah, certainly, if Morzod had switched God to Desmina, she would have been very perfectly happy and would have made Morzod her avatar.
Good lord, I have no idea how he would deal with that kind of...
My god, we could have had a Bruin Luck villain arc. He could have entered his villain era as on account of being abandoned by his best warrior.
His villain era would be literally the exact same, except he's just a little sassier.
I love that for him.
Good for him.
That's when he turns into a mean drunk.
So we then had a bit of a sort of an epilogue for that, because that actually concluded certainly the whole Tarthian delegation plot, and it sort of felt like that was the first season for all intents and purposes of the show wrapped up. It felt like you'd been through a lot, and a lot of story had happened, and this was a good place to, because I then wanted to go and redraw the map of Providence, partly because I wanted to do it better, but partly because it had been, literally torn apart by a god. So in an episode called Aftershocked, during which some of these episodes I went back and just watched a few short clips to remind myself of what happened, and I happened to click on a point with rather swift, talking to the four of you and saying that she might have a job for you. She might have something, some
Yeah.
point in the future, which would need people with your phrasing with people with your skills when the time comes.
Interesting.
Zindi, I think you then have rephrased it as you need sort of she needed player powers or something like that.
Yeah.
PC
shenanigans. It's a specific kind of chaos, you know.
Which did eventually happen. It just took a while.
And it was chaos.
Yeah.
We had all that time to prepare, and we still were not.
And then we got there and we went shopping.
Yeah.
And
you never got your handkerchief.
Yeah.
I'm sure Aussie will eventually track down that guy and get it and
actually
low-key demand it.
Part of the purpose of tonight is to decide anything that we forgot to address in the last session, so we can say yes. Actually, April, if you have dice, you can give me a roll. Just roll a d20.
I mean, don't you still have Aussie open on D20?
D&D Beyond.
What is it called? D&D Beyond. Thank you. Sorry, I'm a little bit fried. We were boss fighting in Pathfinder.
I'm not logged into D&D Beyond. Can I roll a real dice?
Yes, just roll a die and tell me what you get.
Okay, I'm gonna go get my dice. You guys can talk amongst yourself.
Well, how about we take a break?
Yeah,
I would love that
right.
actually. I'd go for a peanut butter sandwich.
Okay.
I need a slice of pizza.
Cool. We will take a break and come back soon, after which we will roll for Handkerchief. Don't go anywhere. Bye. And we're back. I've decided we'll continue with our snacks because,
It's fireside.
yeah,
Here we are chilling.
it's a fireside chat minus the fire.
That's right.
It did kind of tickle me after you guys sort of noted that me drinking from bottles and stuff, like Mozart's totally doing that in character, isn't he? Yeah. Just in the background with the drink. It was never far from my mind after the first time you guys mentioned it.
Okay. April, roll for handkerchief.
Okay. Am I adding anything?
Yeah,
No.
right. Is it advantage?
No, this is just a straight D20.
No, I got a 7.
Okay.
Seven's a nice number, though.
So
Mhm.
now, roll an intelligence check for Orsi.
Okay, my intelligence modifier, I believe, is plus quite a bit.
D20 plus 5, if you need the number.
Oh, it's plus 5, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
On! 8. 13.
I'm sorry. First of all, the individual working on the handkerchief forgot to grab it,
Oh,
And-
come on, my guy.
and Orsi forgot to remind him of it before leaving the anchorage. So
Unbelievable.
The
Can't have
hanky is
anything
gone.
In this land of fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons, I can't even get myself a goddamn hanky. Fine.
Somebody who has gone looking for handkerchiefs in shops, actually, you can't really get them very well these days. It's really frustrating.
Oh, Dungeon Master gave me a whole floating tower, and I'm just like, well, now I don't have a hanky, so what's the point?
What even is the point?
What do I play? No, I'm fine with that. That's hilarious.
So, after that, yeah, so obviously Rala Swift asking for help. Another thing that came up in that episode was, oh dear, most of the Council of Providence is dead. Whatever shall we do?
Mm-hmm.
Oops, all dead.
Step one was nominate Morzod to be, well, it was actually the four of you, as I recall. The surviving councillors said, there's only two of us, we need a tiebreaker. And they need to be someone respected and known to the people. There can't be someone who already has close ties to either of us as councillors. So they said, we want one of you four to do it. And then the question was, I think it was the four of you who then decided, well, maybe three of you decided that it should be Morzod.
We all stepped backwards.
Yeah, quite literally. I remember
And
Orsi and
Morzod was
Dagmar.
left.
Orsi and Dagmar in particular were just like, nope.
Morzod thought it was a terrible idea, but he trusted all of you, and you all said that it was a good idea. So he was like, well, they said it's all right, so...
We did argue strongly why it shouldn't be any of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The rest of us would have been a poor choice.
And then Vatericus was like, oh, actually, I would like some of this.
Well,
He did it the proper way, though. He got fucking voted
He
in.
got elected.
Yeah.
Morzod got re-elected, right?
No, he wasn't a councillor. They just kept him on as a...
It's
Bro.
yeah, as a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
that's right, because we held new elections but didn't actually get to a tiebreak.
Yeah, you held new elections and decided to go ahead and elect two more councillors, so you'd have four, which meant you still needed a tiebreaker.
And, I mean, Aussie had that suit made for Morzod, and...
It'd be a waste. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it also came up that, oh, hey, there was a hole in City of Providence, and they wanted you to go and take a look and find out what's going on down there.
Somebody disappeared, and they were like, oh...
That's right.
Yeah, we went and
That's
spoke
right.
to the
Yes.
Yeah, we went and spoke to the woman, the lady whose husband went
Husband and
AWOL.
son.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
And
Sun came back.
Herd and Silverfin, the prince, had got the priest.
Mhm.
Who had,
Wow.
who
he
had
was
dis-
a prince.
He was a
Yo,
prince.
is that a
all
reveal?
Oh my god!
Who
I would have
dis-
worked harder on him if I knew he was a prince.
who distinguished himself as literally a nameless priest in the fight for the battle of the Panopticon.
Work. Love it.
He went searching for this missing person, and therefore also fell into the Feywild.
All been there.
Yeah, he was going through a huge crisis of faith at this point, and when it turned out, hey, someone's gone missing, he said, "That's something I can do. I can go look for someone. I will do that."
And we fucking went looking for him.
Yeah,
Yeah, how'd that turn out, Herden?
We all fell into our weird little side dimensions for a bit. Morzod went to fucking space.
Yeah,
Yep.
for 6 months.
yep.
Morzod played Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Yeah, we're up to episode 29, The Dream
Oh man,
Fisher.
he'd have, no, 1 and 2 maybe, not 3. He would have come back quite different if he'd been involved in 3.
Oh yeah, we didn't meet
Yeah.
total.
Yeah. Anyway, spoilers.
So episode 29, The Dream Fisher, and then episode 30 to 40, 10 sessions in the Feywild. I put the Feywild there
Felt like
as
so much more.
I did not have any idea how long you'd want to stay in there, and it was quite simply, let's give them something to do before getting them back onto the story proper. Just a little diversion. I will say 10 episodes is a bit longer than I was expecting, but it was fine. It was
Well,
fun.
Times with the
Feywilds.
hag.
Always loved the Feywilds.
Yeah, there was Rathcrunan, there was the Hag. Well, the first episode in the Feywild was called Into the Woods, and I tried to pick Into the Woods themed titles for the episodes. I only got a few. There was Into the Woods, there was To Grandmother's House, and the final one when you returned to Providence was And Home Before It's Dark.
Ah, such a good musical.
Yeah, but there was Rathcrunan, there was
Eaten by a tree. That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the
tree.
unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
We
Continuing that
pissed
proud
off
tradition
that
of being eaten by things.
chick
Yeah.
really badly.
Oh, that was fine. She settled once she changed season. It's fine. No problem.
That's right.
We
It's
met
fine.
Trevor.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, the Eladrin.
And we met Trevor.
And Trevor,
Very
yeah.
important Trevor.
I mean, he's important to the next campaign.
Mm.
Is he?
Yes,
He
he's
will
the one
be.
that rescues Todd.
That's right.
That's why I've been drawing him with a cassowary feather.
Teaches Todd how to be an awakened thing. Well,
All right, I haven't properly. I mean, I've sort of glanced at your character backstories, but my head's all boats at the moment.
Your head is so boats at the moment.
Yeah.
Great,
Please
I
keep
love-
it in
I-
boats so that you don't notice that mine is
Please.
missing.
Speaking
Please
of
keep doing boats because I want that boat. I'm going to pay you
speaking
for
of
that
boats, I've found that I made a mistake with the mainstay.
No.
Because
Oh
of,
no!
because well, I can explain it in a way that actually makes sense. I've been copying model ships, as in little models that people make of historical ships, because they pay a lot of attention to details. So it's not a bad place to go for details, especially for when it's ships that no longer exist and that haven't existed for over 200 years. Where else do you go? But it's fairly common for model makers with ships to not put the sails on them because they want to say, look at all this beautiful rigging that I did by hand. If you put sails on it, it gets in the way. You can't see them. That's, most of them do it that way. And I found that some of the models I was looking at for reference, they'd actually rigged it wrong. Because once you put sails on there, you've got ropes running directly through sails in ways that are physically impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to go and do some research and find some different sources and realize that, okay, that mainstay can't go like that. It has to go like this and like that.
Did you then push your glasses up your nose and go onto their forum and be like, actually?
I'm trying very hard not to do that because they've been very, very helpful in these forums.
I see.
Especially since I'm not one of them, really. I'm just doing it in 3D. Like, these people are physically using their
with
fingers
tweezers.
to, they've got block and tackle, but the blocks are like 2 millimeters long, and they're threading.
Yeah, they are.
They're threading, rigging through them and tying them off, and yeah, I'm not gonna tell them how to do their thing. But anyway,
Best not.
back to campaign 1. We had an episode called Grand Theft Wyvern.
Yeah, that's where we pissed off what's her face.
Soren, yes. And after dealing with the Strife Hag and all of that, and rescuing Herd Silverfin and realizing that, yes, he was going through a massive essentially an existential crisis, but certainly a crisis of faith, which led to him actually changing faith, switching God from Desmina to Nessid Clathy.
Don't blame him. She's gorgeous.
But you all decided to hop on a wyvern and go on a flight westward to do a bit of exploring and to also learn about something about City in the Clouds.
Yay!
City in the Clouds and Blood Lake.
And Blood Lake.
Yep, and
Blood Lake.
And then
The theft. We stole it to go to the
monsters.
hag.
Still have
Oh no,
things
this
to
is the
do.
one we mounted with permission. With
Yeah,
the little
yeah.
possum
we had
friend.
permission for the flying city and the
yep,
Yeah, I liked the monsters that you told us about. Though we didn't end up fighting, thank fuck. The ones
yeah
that
the
was,
shit in
like,
the sky.
things out
It's
of-
like, oh nope.
yep,
nope,
The
nope.
Ghibli is.
the anglers. I can't remember what I actually called them, but yeah, they these are just
scary.
fun homebrew things that if you touched them, it would have pulled you up and tried to eat you.
Yeah, very creepy.
And you found the colossal stone, the colossal rock of Rivermeat, also existed in the Feywild and just hovered there for some reason.
That's right.
I just love that, like, it's a D&D, it's about fantasy and like prehistoric Australia, but also aliens.
Well,
I
still
adore
love the
that
guy,
so much.
right? The guy at the tavern who was just like aliens.
it was
Yeah.
I
And
can't-
he was right.
I can't remember her name at the moment. Yeah, but she was the tavern owner, the Tabaxi.
Mm.
She was saying they're from the moon. Yeah, probably.
She was something like Eyes to the Stars or something. She had a very sci-fi name that made sense in hindsight.
And by the way,
Nailed it.
there was a clue when she was pointing at the moon. Dagmar identified that the rock on top was a different type of stone to the rock supporting it. It was made of basalt. I think it was
Moon
basalt
rock?
or whatever.
Is that a moon
It's the same as
stone?
what the moon is made of.
Oh.
Well, same as essentially it's what our moon is made of. It's the result of volcanic activity from long, long, long ago. Or volcanic activity, or maybe just the fact that it blew up or whatever.
Got hit by the earth or
Yeah.
something.
But yes, there was did plant a little link to the moon in that. So yeah, Blood Lake, City in the Clouds. You found Orsie's aunt and uncle who had been
Yay.
Yeah,
petrified.
That was so cool.
that was good.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Sci-fi.
was so interested to see how you were going to handle that because at the very start, all I gave to David was that story of the city in the clouds, and then I was like, I have no idea how this is going to resolve.
Have fun.
And he did.
yeah,
And
and
it ended up
you,
being a cool, like, plane shifted little Factotum Prime. I love that guy.
yep, you met
Sad
Factotum
little
Prime. You learned
was
about
so good.
the Scrutineers, these aliens who were basically assessing Valdra for its potential as a colony for all intents and purposes.
I saw them as space jockeys from the start.
They were basically saying, well, do we invade this world, basically wipe out any sapient life or enslave them or whatever and just make it our own? And then the cataclysm happened and everything got weird. And you decided not to... you basically decided to, once you'd rescued Orsie's aunt and uncle, you decided it was time to just leave the City in the Clouds and never look back, which is completely fair because that was a scary place.
That's scary. It was
Dangerous.
like,
It had the nano machines.
yeah, it was sci-fi scary, not fantasy scary.
Hmm.
We did
Um,
not
Can't do
have the
anything about
equipment
nano
for that.
machines. Yeah.
Then
The bow does not work.
you flew back to Providence. Also on your way out, before you came back, you visited the Ismani settlement in.
The possums.
Yep.
They were so good.
Yeah, I was thinking
was-
about that
that
the
was
other
fun.
day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Possum
Love those
Town.
little guys.
And
I
then
left them a sword.
then you came back to Providence, and that's right. And it was time for the grand tournament.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Tarragus stole my belt
I did.
Yes, that was when
with challenges that were heavily weighted towards bloody
yes,
speech
because
giving debate.
I liked that we all got a go in those challenges though. Like we all had something that we rocked out at. It
Also,
felt
lost a
good.
magic duel to a student, so I don't think he ever like really recovered from that.
Did I
Mentally.
outshoot Dagmar as well?
you did.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was an off day for Dags.
Yeah, she won the foot race and nothing else.
As
And
dwarf, which is impressive.
extremely raw. Yeah. Luckily, at that point, she'd leveled up enough to get like good dashing.
Your rogue was starting to kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, Vitaricus was just in like most of the events. Dagmar
Yeah,
was not entering debate.
And so after that, Vitaricus now had the belt that would go on to haunt.
Changed the course of history.
It would go on to haunt
haunt.
me, but it had not yet gained its power that would do that.
Yeah, you threw him a bone with the debate,
Yeah.
and you regretted it forever.
There was actually 4 episodes called The Circles of Tarth, which was Doug's mini
That
series.
was fun.
That was meant to be a
so-
one shot, but again, we blew it out.
Well,
I'm so glad that we did.
Mm,
One shots
Yeah.
can take a couple sessions though.
yeah,
It was fun.
and it was a
It's
fun
just
way.
one shot, but we're sipping it.
We had so much fun as the twins. It was great.
Yeah.
Stabby cats.
Loved
And
those
it was
two.
a fun way for me to, make a change to the world and have everyone, have us all, see it and witness it without actually having the main characters be the ones who did it for a change.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Other people exist in this world. We were rogue oneing it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then we went back to U4, and it was time for all of you to head north to Heron's Perch.
Yay.
So, and it actually took you a while to get there. Episodes 47 to 56. Wow.
Damn, we took a
Just
hot
to
second,
get
It did
didn't
take us
we?
a while to get there.
We had
Yeah.
the
Oh, we
stuff
got a
on the
dragon on the
way.
way.
We did things.
That's right.
We-
Yeah.
We did a dragon in a dungeon.
And where's the map? There's the map.
That's important.
And we did the shifting hills.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, we
almost
met the
accidentally
genie, which was
Sold
very
Dagmar
important.
into
Met the
slavery on the
genie,
Queen of Earth.
Yeah. So it was back to Golden Ford. This is when you found that it had been reoccupied and it was now called Opportunity. As when you met Captain Kinala. And that is where you encountered the White Dragon, whose name I can't remember. I have to check my notes.
Dragon
It's fine,
names are
he's dead.
ridiculous.
Imradnil the whatever.
That's it.
The White? Was he just Imradnil the White?
Yep, Imradnil the White.
And
And also
Loverboy.
also
got
Loverboy.
Again.
Mhm.
Super.
Yeah.
fucked
Oh,
up.
that's
Super
it, because we scryed on him. That was my first ever
yeah.
scry spell.
And
That was fun.
yes, you
Oh, yeah.
were able to connect Loverboy to a spate of missing persons. Well, a couple of
Yeah.
missing.
That was when
Yeah.
we got the fucking killer intimidate. Just intimidate him
That's
so
right.
hard. He
You
was
in-
like,
You intimidated him into going face to face with the dragon that hated him, and was looking and was desperately hoping that someone other than that Loverboy would walk into his lair so that he could kill Loverboy and then negotiate with someone else,
Yeah.
which happened.
yeah,
Really,
we
like-
absolutely provided.
When I remember when we scryed on him, and we were just like we finally had a reason to like, oh, that bitch. Like,
Yeah.
We knew it. We fucking knew
So
it.
knew it.
validating.
yeah.
Like now I hate him for a reason.
Yeah.
And then you
Before we agreed on the hate, but now.
returned to Rivermeet on the way north. It must have been when you visited Bowls Bevs. I don't think all of you partook that time, but you did pick up a few extra drinks to take with you.
Ozzy
Yeah,
has
this
never
was when
drunk any of those
Patericus
weird
had the
magic
truth.
things. Yeah. It's literally just all of you guys dragging him into weird drinks.
Yep.
I think I still have one in my pack.
Bags does
we
too.
we
She
did
never
get
drank it.
extras. Yeah.
We
I
got
was so
extras and then
tempted.
never drank them.
To drink it at like the big party at the end.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to then center a fireball on myself accidentally.
Yeah, the wild magic is
That would have been funny.
Especially
get
wild
expelled
magic past
from-
its due-by date.
Yeah, get kicked out the new plane.
Yeah, oopsies. Sorry, guys.
And then Oldham, with the tavern called Not a Werewolf in Sight. And yeah, and you took a good old-fashioned bulletin board job.
Oh, like
Yeah, that
we
was
Yeah, that
used to
was
do
the
in
Wandering
old
Hills.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Shifting Hills, where we had an episode that I titled Picnic at Flying Rocks.
Good
Because
work.
Very Aussie.
there was a battle going on between Earth and Fire?
No, I think it was air.
I think it was-
Wasn't
yeah,
It was
okay,
earth and
yeah.
air because there was
Yeah.
wind and there was also basketball-sized rocks.
Yeah. And eventually, which was resolved not by fighting, but with Morsod actually having them all sit down and have a picnic together.
Listen, there's very little that Salami can't solve.
That is what she said.
And as a result of which, I rolled to see how many wishes would the genie be prepared to grant you as a favour for resolving this in such a pleasant and non-violent way. And it was maximum 3 wishes.
Lucked out.
And
2 spent on very frivolous things. 1 spent on very good thing.
The frivolous things really did sort of do some good shit, though.
yeah, I mean, in one sense, the upgrade to the belt, so that instead of it just being recognized by, instead of it just working on people in Providence who knew who the champion of Providence was, it would work on basically everybody. I was in 2 minds about that, because going, oh no, that is going to be so powerful. And I was also thinking, yeah, but they're spending a wish on it. Let them have it.
Mm-hmm.
We had such an in-depth discussion. Like, we had the longest discussion over what to spend our wishes on. We're just like, we can't use it for anything like cool in the story, because we want to solve story problems with story stuff. So we're like, yeah, let's just spend our wishes on stuff we want.
Yeah, your armor was a wish as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, my glamored armor that was just like
Wish was basically, I want what
little
he's got.
upgrade. I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. I want one.
Yeah, I want that one.
And then we
That's great.
saved the last one because we couldn't think of anything else.
Honestly, a favor for later is a very me thing. I've had other characters that like function on that, so it felt really natural for me to sort of want. But like, how about we take a rain check on that one? And I wanted to see the genie again
Yeah.
because he was
For
cool.
sure.
He was
This, I
cool.
think, was, on, I guess, something of a personal note for Vatericus. I think this was the bit that really crystallized for me that Vatericus doesn't like divinely or, like, super magically solving his problems. Like, thinking about, I could wish Engadon dead, but that doesn't actually solve the problem. Or, like, I could wish that issue resolved. I could wish that Engadon, just forgot about me or whatever.
Left me
but,
alone.
Yeah, but that doesn't actually solve the problem in any sort of meaningful way.
And then you die
So-
not knowing what the fuck.
Yeah. So I'll just wish to have the belt recognized by everyone.
Which is way more fun.
Do they recognize the belt, which almost got put on the mug that you are currently holding?
Yeah.
We were
It was a
tossing up
very-
between Bard Life and do they recognize the belt?
And like both are still so valid.
Mm-hmm.
Do they recognize the belt and Silvery Barbs do it again? Basically the catch cries, aren't they?
And also, can we make it a performance check?
That
Yeah.
yeah.
That
although
was the
that
other
feels more
mug,
like
yeah.
that
That
feels
was
more like
also in the running.
that feels
Yeah.
more like general D&D though.
Yeah, that's right. Can we make it this
It's
thing that
very
I'm really good
hard.
at, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Very
always
hard to run.
acrobatics and athletics. There's whichever one your character is good at. It's always can we find a way to make this acrobatics instead of athletics, please?
Can we
Yeah.
make that an
Tackles in
intelligence
Dagmar.
check? Yeah.
Can we make it so it's athletic but with
I have to
flair, so
think
it's
about
therefore acrobatics.
Yeah.
Dagmar was like plus 11 in one and plus 16 in the other, so she was like, what else?
Bloody jocks.
I'll
Then
do both bitches.
onto Heron's Perch and
Ooh.
actually,
Vampires.
The vampire and the
ball.
ball.
That was
Yay.
so fun.
Such a fun. I mean, sorry, I know you died there, Morzod, but it was such a fun.
I love it.
Trip.
Was
I got
so Orlais. So I loved it.
Yeah. That was
Whole
eventful too, because that
episode.
was the session where I was at April's place, so we actually had like our first
Yeah.
two of the players were in the same building.
That was such a nice little trip. We went and got burgers and what else did we do? did
We
a
had
lot of
delicious tea. We went to a very fancy tea restaurant.
things. We
You
did.
watched
we went
me
to
eat cake.
I watched you eat cake because I couldn't eat anything there.
We got
And
lost
we
in the
got-
Melbourne suburbs.
We did. We ate at that nice Mexican place that does the
Mhm.
burgers.
It was a lot of food. It was very food based.
It was. That's it. Because
As
you come down for your
should be.
party.
Yeah.
That's
so
good.
I've brought up the map of Heron's Perch because I think it's my personal favorite, just visually,
Oh.
stylistically, of the ones that I put together.
That was one of my questions for you, actually. I was going to ask you what map you liked the most or enjoyed making the most.
Enjoyed making. That's very hard to say.
I feel like that hex map at the other end of the campaign had to be some kind of favorite. Was it? You seemed like you'd had a lot of fun planning out all the shit on that.
Hex map was, I mean, visually, it was fairly straightforward. It was just come up with a landscape and then sort of put some hexes over it and then say, okay, now, what can be there and what can be there? So there wasn't really much to it. I enjoyed coming up with the encounters for it. But in terms of actually designing a map and then sitting back and looking and saying, hey, I made this, I think Heron's Perch is my favorite for that, just to look at it and say, I like the look of this map. It's just...
It
the
looks
kind
so
that I would have-
legit.
I would love to get the really high res of this and have it professionally printed and frame
It's
it.
doable. Most of it is actually vector. I did it in Illustrator, so it can be scaled to any resolution.
Hell yeah.
I even had like all of the, like if you zoom in, you can see that all of the lines are sort of wobbly, so they look like they've been hand drawn. Those are actually, I put distortion filters on the vector lines to do that. So they're very high resolution lines with like thousands upon thousands of points on them just to give it the handmade look. But it means it can still be scaled to any size. And boy, oh boy, was that slowing down my computer by the end. Because all of these lines,
No
like
kidding.
all of the buildings have the same effect on them to get that same sort of squiggly, slightly hand-drawn feel. But they're all vector shapes with vector fills in them as well, all of which also have the same effect applied to them. So it was a very heavy map to work with, but worth it, I think.
Yes, I would definitely like to have that one printed out, I believe.
What
Yeah. I like the one. I like the Zoot maps best.
Hmm.
I
think
just
they're
love that he's called Zoot.
Absolutely. Oh, the Zoot.
Zoot was
Good old Zoot.
Zoot was a fun character to play when I brought him out. Yeah.
God,
Always
yeah.
love Zoot.
I think
always
that was
loved-
the first character you F-bombed with.
It's possible,
True.
yeah.
Would have been.
And he had every reason to swear.
He absolutely did.
Oh yeah.
Putting up with our shit.
Specifically with Terracus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Terracus.
Hmm. So you spent a couple of episodes... Oh, that's right. So yeah, there was the play and your first glimpse of the princess under a parasol because because the sun was out. Then Kynwyn had to leave us for a couple
Yeah.
of sessions, so we had the search
I
for
missed
Dagmar.
that episode, so I didn't see the play. You puppeted Dagmar for me for that episode, and then I
Oh yeah, that's it.
couldn't play for a couple weeks, and
Yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks I was out. So it was that one you played Dagmar for me, and then Dagmar was missing for
Yep.
the next one.
So Dagmar was missing, and the story became about you finding Dagmar because she'd been kidnapped.
That was fun. I mean, I wasn't in that episode, so I didn't play, but coming back to it was really fun. Waking up in
Yeah.
the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
And that got us into the brought up Faris the Fixer, who'd I'd come back and play in another one-shot later.
He was great.
Mm-hmm.
And his sexy demon devil, the warlock.
Mm-hmm.
And
his patron, yeah, she was good.
Definitely not at all related to why I'm playing a warlock in the next campaign.
I like that though. You got to discover like something interesting about a class, and you get to play it.
I was great
Is it
because
gonna
like David tempted Dagmar with the warlock proposition, and like
And truly,
a part
he
of her
tempted
wanted
you.
to. He tempted me, but like
Yeah.
Dagmar, like on some level, she was like, "Oh, I do kind of want to see what this magic shit is all about because they just keep fucking going on and on about it, and it would be pretty funny if I turned around and was like, boom, boom." But then the devil was definitely of an evil alignment.
oh yeah,
and
she was nice.
eviler.
I don't think.
Eviler even than Faris knew.
Yeah, and I don't think Dagmar was ready to go like evil. Like
Yeah.
she was morally, convincible to do some things, but she wasn't like, I'll murder your children for fun.
Yeah. And so after that, you then got word that there was going to be, actually it was announced at the play that the masquerade was going to happen. But you had a few days to prepare for it. A lot of which was spent just wandering around Heron's Perch, eating iced creams.
Yeah.
Oh, Baskin and Robin, yeah.
That was fun.
What were they again? It was like a lolcath and a. We all made it up together. David, you had no part in it because we decided that there was ice cream.
Yeah. It was like
there was ice cream, and
Oh,
then
it was,
Skinku
and
or
one
a-
was an Aarakocra because he was a Robin.
Yeah, Skinku or an
It was
Aarakocra or
Baskin
something.
and Robin.
Baskin.
Oh, that's it. Baskin and Robin. That's it.
That's right.
yeah, we had ice cream, and then Dagmar found a Bunnings.
Yes.
Yes.
Bunnings. Yeah, we had a good Sunday out that day. That was a nice Sunday.
They was like, "I've planned an amazing, really hardcore ball quest for you." Or well, like we would like to go learn to whittle. So could you please take us to a woodworking shop?
And then 2 episodes for the masquerade itself, during which Morzor died.
Yeah,
Was
I
it
got
bad?
better.
Very stressful.
Dad
Ozzy
Dad
saw
was
his
there.
dad again.
Daddy
Mhm.
was
That was
there.
exquisitely awkward.
Mm.
That was really great.
Love Daddy.
And
We were just so thrilled about all the masks and shit.
It's
Oh
great.
yeah, that was fun.
Oh, I had a lot of fun drawing everyone's outfits.
They were so good.
I think I still have that open in one of my tabs because I wanted to draw it myself as well.
It's fun. We love a good.
Someday.
close
That's
your
good.
tabs,
I-
people. Oh,
No.
do you know how
I
much?
know. I'm a tab closer. I am with you, David. You'll freak me out. You give me anxiety.
Do you know how much memory that
This is an
eats up over
ADHD
time?
thing. Like if
With
you have the
Firefox,
tab
it's
open,
fine.
you won't forget it exists. But if you close the tab, it will cease to exist and you will never see it again.
That's what bookmarks are for.
I don't use bookmarks. Bookmarks
No,
don't
bookmarks
exist.
are terrible.
If you can't see it, you can't. It doesn't exist.
There's somebody on my server who he just goes into paroxysms every time he remembers how many tabs I've got open. So you can imagine when I came back from my full computer wipe that I've just done, and I was like, "Ping, guess what? My tabs survived." And he was like, "No."
Because I've too many, I just get lost.
Mine are
And
in
then I get
trees. I know
stressed
where they
out.
are.
I just
They're
close them and then I
organised.
forget. That's it.
Yeah,
I just
I'm-
accept that.
Yeah. It's just gone. It just disappears.
It's gone. That's it. It never existed as far as I was concerned, because that's the only way I can get through my day.
Yeah,
I'll
closing
occasionally bookmark things, but I forget I've bookmarked it, and it's just gone.
your tabs is how you say, I'm going to do something else now.
Literally, yes. If I don't close
another
like the
tab
10,000 Pinterest things I have open, I will go on a Pinterest doom scroll of like.
Now, see,
I don't know.
that's a skill issue. Because
Yeah.
I can stop Pinterest anytime I want.
I need it for reference though, for animals, for work, and then I'll just go down
I
horrible.
use Pinterest for reference as well. I open it up and it's full of dirt bike gear and lizard men.
Oh, I can't. I'll be at work and I'll be sitting there and I'll be like looking at like, I don't know, like a dog, and I'll be like, oh, what if I clicked on this one? And then I've wasted 4 hours of my work day, and I can't do that.
I'm telling you, it's a skill issue.
It's
you
not
need
a
to
skill issue. It's a brain
need to-
issue.
You need to know when to stop.
You
all
live
have
your way, I will
differently
live mine.
malfunctioning brains.
Exactly.
I'm
So-
sorry, are you accusing me of having a properly functioning brain? I could.
No,
No,
I said it's differently
all differently, yeah.
malfunctioning brains.
Okay,
I
right,
don't
right,
think
right.
We're all
mentally healthy
spicy in
people-
our own ways.
Yeah, mentally healthy people don't play Dungeons. Probably.
So,
Or they do once and they're like, that was fun.
That was fine.
So, in Heron's her perch and throughout the masquerade, you started to get the impression there might be a vampire in town. And you dedicated another 5 episodes.
Oh yes, so the Bunnings was after that because the Bunnings was we were going for steaks.
Oh, yes.
That's right,
Oh,
yes.
that's it. I was away for that
Went for
episode.
a reason.
I've
Yeah.
written down a couple of episode titles. There was How to Make Holy Water.
That was when we all got
we
pissed in
got
the
really
bottle.
drunk.
Yeah.
Listen, as the cleric, I was still a cleric at that point.
No, you weren't. No, you
Oh,
weren't.
yeah, you'd swap over at that
You'd
point.
just become a paladin.
but paladins can also holy water.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Any holy class can holy water.
another episode title was Is That a Stake in Your Trousers?
That's when we went to Bunnings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
'Cause we're
that's
like,
it, because I was away for that
vampires.
one, and then Orsi got back, and he was like, he got back when Morzo was pissing in the bottle, and he just had wooden stakes, and he was like, what did you do?
My only duty.
And there was hanging out with Fane Othwin in this during
Yes.
this time.
Mhm.
And
That was
The
when
relationship between Fane Othwin and Vidi just
that was fun.
I like that we put him to sleep, essentially.
We stressed him out so bad he just had
He
to
needed-
sleep.
he
it
had to
off
take a
for
nap.
A few weeks.
Mhm.
but
and to be fair, play characters. I would too.
But I mean, what was really going on with Fane Othwin is that he, as you sort of worked out in game, he had the god of justice had realized that justice is complicated, and it's actually very hard to define in a mortal world, and it was, as a result, his time as a mortal had left him going, I'm not sure I can be the god of justice. How can I be the god of something that may not exist or that I don't understand? And so he had dedicated himself to it. Well, what I can do at least is fight injustice, because that's a lot easier to identify. So that's what he was doing as essentially a defense attorney. But when the issue came up of, hey, there's a vampire running this town, he suddenly
I
went,
know that shit.
he suddenly went, oh, I know what to do with vampires. But when it became, well, we don't want to kill her per se, and that he again became rather confused, but you were able to convince him to not just slay the vampire, but to actually undo her vampirism in pretty much the only way that is possible, which is to permanently kill them and then cast a true resurrection
And
to bring them back.
unkill them.
Yeah.
And then he went to sleep because he was like, I am beat.
Yeah,
I
because
have
you
thought too much today.
because you
Keeping
didn't
up with you bloody player characters.
because you didn't have the very very expensive material components to
Mhm.
do a true resurrection, so he basically had to take it out of himself, which put him into stasis for a while. But not as
A terminal, well, not terminal, but a sleepy case of this fucking bard.
Mhm.
And then Engadon got her 2 little retainers.
Mm.
yes, took the ladies in waiting for herself. these two
Big Van Helsing vibes.
yeah, basically vampire spawn who, on the death of their master, could suddenly become free and be their own little vampires. And Engadon was just sort of pounced on them and said, "Hey, I've got some plans for you too, if you want in."
Good for them, you know.
Let's have a goddamn girls' night.
Now, what happened to those two? Who knows?
We.
Ah,
I mean, we
gonna have to
are
do it
about
then.
to start a campaign in the city that they're possibly still in.
And having eventually resolved on this, there was an episode 69 was called A Very Nice Day. Mostly because you'd cleared things up and you had a nice relaxing day in Heron's Perch, having, saved the town from becoming the new Barovia, essentially, the Barovia of Valdra. And
That would have been pretty sick, though.
Honestly, it would have been really fun too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we come back in a few episodes' time, it might be Barovia. He hasn't said that, it's not.
Campaign 2, 5 years will have passed in Heron's Perch, and it will be a bit different, as I alluded to in the epilogue in the last session. So
that's cool.
Then time to head back to Providence via Rivermeet, and you realised, hey, you can shape stone. Let's find out what's in this big rock.
Yeah, that was a great idea, and
and you found aliens.
We found aliens.
We found aliens, and we gained a friend in Vitericus.
And we used the goblin bomb!
We did use the goblin bomb. That was the payoff for that one.
That was so good.
And
worth all of the "is that a goblin bomb in your pants?"
And having basically hollowed out the colossal rock, the remains of which fell like the shell of the crystal castle in Dark Crystal onto the town below. Happily, nobody perished as a result because you were able to save a few lives.
We were heroes.
We created a problem and then we got real heroic about it.
And then immediately left town.
Yeah, well,
yeah. Well,
we didn't want to wear out our welcome.
And we never went back, and we never will.
It's no longer a problem. Again, out of sight, out of mind.
And
the floating tower will never float that way.
You returned to Providence, and we then had the bullet train, Doug's one shot, rescuing Faris's son.
We made things so much worse.
No, the fixers don't have them anymore. It's fine.
Exactly.
That son is just a 7-year-old boy who now has made a deal with a fucking devil.
They ended up in a sitcom. Devil's gonna be like.
Also, got to the end of that, she was like, "Oh, I'm out. I was never here."
Can you imagine a devil trying to have a serious warlock time and the kid just wants ice cream?
Yeah, what was his pact like?
I'd watch the shit out of that.
I'm sure we'll see him again.
These are questions for Doug. This was not my idea.
It's true. Yeah.
I kind of liked that one. We didn't sort of beat all the bosses. We just did the thing and then legged it.
No, you were paid for a job and you did the job.
It was very on brand for Dagmar's solo adventure with new people. Because that's what happens when she's in charge of an operation.
As I say, real winners are quitters. Hit the bricks. And that's what we did.
So after the one shot, some time passed. I think this is when I actually said, "Hey, it's winter now."
We all got jackets.
And it was time for another arena fight, so I could get that bloody belt off Vitericus. We had the battle for the belt, was what I called it.
That was very cool.
That was fun.
Everyone was very upset Abad had managed to get that belt and then hold on to it for as long as I had.
It was basically
they went ape shit on you the second you got in the arena. And was literally not walking out of it with it.
I literally built like an anti-Vitericus character, and I still had my ass beat, and I needed another character to save me, and I still lost.
But I think we can all agree that it was good that no one was the winner
For
in
sure.
the end.
Oh, he was
He
such a bro.
deserved it.
Love the
Mhm.
shit out of no one.
I love just he's like a horse.
He's
Dude.
Dagmar's other best friend.
He's a cool guy.
He's great.
They tell each other nothing personal. They are the closest friends they've ever had.
And okay,
I'm looking forward to the day that no one like leaves Providence and goes somewhere else, and someone
everyone
goes,
recognizes
"Sick
his belt."
Yeah,
Uh,
Like going on
he's
holiday
gonna
to
feel
somewhere.
good about himself, yeah.
then
Yeah,
there
he hasn't
was
yet discovered this.
more roleplay. I think this is when we had. Was this when we had the elections that actually made Vitericus a councillor?
Must
I
have.
think so.
Mm. And then it was time to join forces with the Oceanic Trading Company
Winston.
to clear Mercer's Pass, find the source of whatever evil was corrupting it, and open it to foot traffic.
I like that we all were like, this is the East India Trading Company, and we do not like them.
mm.
Like, we immediately all
Yeah, when we don't want them to have the monopoly, we'll
agreed.
No,
try and
no,
do something
exactly.
to curtail that.
We can't save this world, but we can save.
Yeah, fuck capitalists.
Yeah.
These guys in particular.
So you returned to Mercer's Pass, many levels higher than when you first went through. But you are now also facing the essentially the god who had spawned all these creatures and was in the process of building himself a new body, though he knew basically nothing about anatomy.
The god.
Yeah,
blob.
guy really needed to do a little bit of research on that shit, hey?
He
It's
was
not,
very
it's
goopy.
really not hard. Just do a couple books, man. You'll get there. But well,
Yeah.
now look at him. So
Yeah. One of those anatomy doesn't matter people.
So you turned basically the pile of doner kebab that was guldag into mincemeat.
don't say that at this time of the night. I'm gonna want to get back.
Right? I'm gonna have to go out and get one. That's fine.
You're not
Man,
drunk enough to go and get a kebab.
I can fix that.
I have some gin. I
True.
can fix that.
At 5 in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, 5 a.m. is when
Tell
you go and get a
motherfuckers,
kebab,
tell
but you've got to be
motherfuckers.
drunk.
Yeah.
It's true. This is also where we used our last wish.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was. And
The
it was
last
so
wish.
beautifully used as well. Like, chef kiss.
Morzod was, I think it was intelligence 1,
Enfeebled, yeah.
and it would have
Yep.
lasted 30 days.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was the first time that I've ever had a DM go like with the sort of I'm sorry, Mrs. Morzod. There's been a complication kind of voice. Because you guys all knew that I had no idea what it was because I don't D&D.
Yeah, enfeeblement is.
It's
a
one
rough
of those
one.
things which is, it's different to death, to a character death. In some ways, it's so much better because you just wait 30 days and your character is fine. But it's also, you got 30 days of your character not being able to speak. How do you do that?
I could have rolled with it.
True, but
I mean, we just would have had charming beast doggo, Morzod for the entire time, and he would have been.
It takes us like 10 sessions to get through like 4 hours of game time. Like, you would
True.
have been enfeebled for the rest of eternity.
but you then went to Kaiwathel. First of all, there's Frail Hall, my 40 Towers ripoff, and then Kaiwathel and the floating island that you never resolved. Would you like me to tell you why the
Yes.
island
I
was
was going to
floated?
ask.
Damn
That
it,
was my
fucking-
question.
Never in the. Didn't think to go in the. I don't like water, so I was like, we're not going in the water. I was in the water.
So, if you'd gone underwater and searched in the right place, you would have found the entrance to a strange metal room. You have, given your previous adventures, you would have recognized it as the other part of the alien outpost that was trapped in the Feywild. Part of the
yeah.
outpost was taken to the Feywild during the Cataclysm. The other part was stuck on the material plane, including the main reactor, which is why the outpost in the Feywild was running on emergency power, because it had been cut off from the main reactor. The main reactor was stuck under the lake. Now, it had its own factotum, who was immediately promoted to Factotum Prime. It all knew, look, something's going terribly wrong. We've lost access to main communications, lost access to our main sensors, but we do know there is something falling towards us at tremendous speed. We're going to stop it. We're going to use our anti-gravity technology, just hold it up there so it doesn't come crashing into us. And hopefully our alien masters will come and right all this sometime. And they waited 800 years, and it never happened, and the reactor just ran out of power, and it came down.
Right.
But they chose to actually shut down the reactor rather than cause a massive explosion that would have taken out half of the island.
It's nice of them.
Yeah, that was
surprisingly reasonable of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was also underwater, there was the other end of the way, the Fey portal, that you looked through and saw water through. That was how Niran and Faran fell into the Feywild.
Yes. Well, we don't need any of that. We've got Genolton anti-gravity magic now, so.
No.
Heck
Homemade.
yeah.
We made our own anti-gravity with blackjack and hookers.
We've got anti-gravity at home.
Yeah.
And we actually do, so that's lovely.
And we love Zarasa so much more, so it's more special that.
It's special anti-gravity.
Yeah.
Anti-gravity with love.
Yeah, anti-grav of a friend. Yeah.
That's the secret ingredient to anti-gravity.
Yeah, the anti-gravity we made along the way.
People say that gravity is the strongest force in the universe, and we know it's not true because it's love.
That's right. Now I'm remembering, of course, the reason you went to Kaiwathel is because you were following the rat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Becky!
Oh, man.
The rat who Bol had trapped, had fed, either fed some red weed to it or found it having eaten some red weed, I can't remember, and realized that it was trying to run in a very specific direction.
But only when he wasn't looking.
So you kept it captured, you kept it fed, you worked with, what's his name? Ledge in the Coruscant Academy, who put a tracking device, essentially a magical tracking device on it. And then you let it go, and you followed it. And
as we know, that ended very well.
Oh, Specky.
Not well for Specky.
No.
Not well for Ledge
had a
either,
bad
actually.
time.
In
Not
the long,
well for
in the long
like
term.
any of us.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, that'll
Mistakes were
kind of
made.
led up to the big thing, which was Visericus now has a diamond in his chest.
It's true.
When did that happen?
That happened
In the
when
Grimwood, we got murdered by the research team.
Yeah, but it
Right.
was actually only the mooks. We hadn't actually even gotten up to the god yet.
Yeah,
I was going to say, it wasn't even we. I got murdered by the research team. You guys
that was
were
one
fine.
of my Doug questions. I was just like,
You got coup de grace, wasn't it?
I was like, as the
did.
PhD who died, were you even at all expecting that it was going to happen in that fight against not like a god or a monster, just like a couple of wizards and their dude friend who came out?
When I realized that the bard had more health than I thought she did, the one with the really excellent version of Vicious Mockery that I kind of want, Supreme Mockery or whatever it was, when I realized that she was kind of the mini-boss for this area and I had deposited myself next to her, I was like, I have made a grave error here.
Oh dear.
You sure had.
And I was expecting to be kicked off the tree. I had already lost a little bit of health. I don't know that I was expecting to die.
It was the summoned Earth Elemental that did it, wasn't it?
Yeah,
was
you hit
the
the ground and
wild-shaped
bounced.
one, yeah.
You hit the ground and bounced, and we're on the floor, and it was right there, and David was like, "Oh shit, there's no reason why it wouldn't."
It basically tackled me off the branch and then went, all right, well, you're out of health. And
Splut.
it's still got 2 attacks, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I died with my chest caved in
died.
by an earth elemental. It
Yeah.
was great.
But you got better.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Recommend.
I mean, the diamond in the chest became such a
so good.
such a mainstay.
Iconic.
It's truly iconic.
Yeah,
And
that was
then-
Good
all just really cool. And there were also a lot of unanswered sort of questiony bits. Like there was so much mystery and stuff that was being unsaid in the shit that you saw when you were dead. And I'm there like, are we ever gonna see what this actually means?
I mean, yeah, we
No,
could always
never.
we could have
Not
asked
once.
jokes about stuff, but we didn't.
No, that's impolite. You don't want to.
You don't want to ask your friend why he
Yeah.
was talking to his mother while he was.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
you do,
a
because the
bit
player
dead.
character wants you to ask, and then you can talk about it.
Because people with parental issues, Orsi and Dagmar certainly were like, you can best not.
Sure, truly, we had like parental issues. The game with these lot,
And then parental
Except
absolutely
Mozart.
no issues.
Mozart was fine. Mozart, well loved by all.
You see, Mozart grew up with his mum was the orc. Like he always assumed that the dad obviously is the orc, but no, Mozart grew up with like the idea that dad's, well, his at least is a small, frail, dainty thing. Like he was the prettiest half orc in his village, like because everyone else was all like orky and gnarly, and then he's there with his human blood. And so, like, yeah, he did his childhood teasing was about being pretty.
And deeper into the Grimwood, you met Ashruith, and you also met
That guy.
Well, of
We
course,
fled from him.
through all of this, you've also met Orinala, the druid,
Raptor girl, she's cute.
my dino druid.
And we gave her throwaway.
You
We
did
did.
eventually, yeah.
And she
That
was
was
so
such
happy.
a-
It was so
That
worth
was
it.
such a big character moment for Orsi giving up throwaway.
But like she was so touched. You could tell. It's like, holy shit, this is wow.
And then, gosh, throwaway is getting used for intended purposes now. So that's
Yes. Yeah.
instead of throwing her at things.
I do like how kind of Pokemon we got.
Yeah, that was David quietly being like, I am never giving any of you another animal again.
Oh no.
He just gave us a bunch of Pokeballs. He gave us a necklace. He gave us throwaway.
Yeah.
I still have Covafen in there.
And
Yeah.
there she shall remain.
And there yeah.
Oh.
His lucky
the-
Covafen corpse.
One of the Councillors of Providence is just walking around with a dead Supreme Ascended in a necklace at all times.
Yeah, that's
That
not
won't
gonna
ever backfire.
No,
Yeah, that's never going to be a
pocket
political issue.
Yeah, it's pocket sand.
Yeah, do you know what happened to the last Supreme Ascended who came here? Because I can show you.
I mean, you literally did that when we were on the boat.
I mean, yeah, I forgot we didn't talk about that. How we just Covafen was at Heron's Perch, and we just kind of just went like,
Yeah, forgot to recap that, yeah.
She was
was
there,
fun.
and we were
Rested
like,
in
"Oh,
death.
you fucking!" And such an ignoble death as well. Like we just melted her.
All her scheming for naught.
But that's perfect. Like you take on the player characters, you find out.
It's very satisfying to end a wizard with a melee weapon as well, because they're also fucking smug. And then you're just like, hey, bitch, here's some daggers.
How many HP do you have?
Doop, doop. And
not a
she's
lot.
out.
Not a lot.
Not enough rats.
Not a lot of HP when you're a wizard.
After resolving the red weed, you returned to Kai Withel, where you found there was a red dragon problem. So you dealt with that. You disintegrated it, so it didn't have a corpse to play with.
That was just so cinematic. I am surprised I slept that night. It was so cool. In fact, we've had some holy shit that was fucking cool moments like all the way along, but that was a good one.
That was very fun. Me and Doug were like messaging each other, just like, how do we catch the dragon? Hold my hand.
And then they just Aussie and Vinny'd it.
They did.
That's good.
Because I put it to sleep for a second, right? So that disintegrate was sort of slightly more effective.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was in
With
free fall
whopping, like,
sleeping.
what, like 3 HP he had left or something.
Yeah, that's right. It clearly wasn't worth the effort, but put it to sleep, plunging towards the lake.
Turns
and
out
then,
that disintegrating it was a good idea, because then
It's
we
true.
did take that off to Dungeon Master.
So back to Providence after that, and then it was time for a new accord with the gods, who'd had some revelations and had also built their own new celestial plane to live in. Then in the next episode, the Amalgam attacked in an episode called Death from Above.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting into sort of recent memory now, so I'll go a bit faster through these. There was time to get aboard the airship, which was the Defiant. That was the hex crawl exploration.
Very fun.
It was
Oh,
fun.
that was the best bit, honestly. Maybe my favorite part.
Hexcrawl was fantastic, and I'm so glad that you allowed me to get that, because I had one goal going in there, and it was naming something after Mordred's mum. One goal.
It was so, like, reminded me so much of, like, Chalt's, like, Tomb of Horrors.
Mm.
The way that one runs is with a hex crawl, and it's, like, so much fun.
I really need to bring that map up. I think it should still have all of your drawings on it. Yes, it does.
Ooh, that is my headset telling me that I've been doing almost 12 hours of roleplay. Well, not roleplay. 6 hours of roleplay, and then into this.
So yes, we've got Sandra's Peaks on the Isle of Boobs.
Yeah.
That was the one.
Good old Sandra.
I also need to print this out.
The Banana Bar, Bracken's Drop, Don't
The
Island,
banana bar. Oh.
Rumble
That's because
Bay.
we saw the did we see the seals doing banana pose at the banana
yeah.
bar?
Yeah.
That was the one.
That's good.
Howling Dale, Cracksten, Dagmar's Folly. What's this? Gore Cavern?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Gore Cavern. Yeah.
That was the Amalgam's lair.
Yes. The Cavern of Gore.
Phil's Run, because the mule was named Phil.
Rest in peace, Phil.
You will be remembered.
And that was where we got the pepper worm.
Yeah.
That was a fun fight.
I could feel my face lighting up when you said there was the purple worm.
I thought it would be a fun and different way to do a purple worm encounter by having an airship to back you up.
It
It was
felt very Dune.
It was much less horror-inducing.
Yeah.
Fighting on the ground, which is never fun.
I thought, of course, there still have to be stakes, so that's why I put civilians on the ground to save as many as you could. But yeah, that was a fun, different way, and that was a it was fun to have almost like a mini kaiju battle in a way, because you're Jaeger versus kaiju, because you had the airship versus the purple worm.
That's very fun.
So then after the amalgam, that's right, you then saw smoke to the east. You worked out via after sending a few messages that it was coming from the town of Opportunity. You decided to go straight there. You teleported there, is that right?
We did.
Yeah.
Teleported there.
We
Which
ditched
worked
the ship.
because you'd been there before. You were able to go to the dragon's lair under the under the manor house. Now I was not expecting you to actually go straight there.
Because when have we ever?
So
Well, literally, the one time we go direct, it's like when we're furthest away.
I mean, I knew what was happening there. I just hadn't really planned. Okay, what happens if the players just throw themselves into this right now? So that was a lot of improv on my part to get you,
well done.
stuck under the burning town.
Flawless, yeah.
But you saved some lives, and they gave you some intel on the anchorage as a result. So you knew more about the anchorage than you would have, because Captain Quinala, she hadn't been to the anchorage, but she had met Queen Aneth. She knew a few things also. Her backstory, I didn't really go into this, but she was a pirate. She was working independently, and then on the sea, she happened across Pirate Queen Aneth, who basically said, it seems you're one of us. Here, take this compass, come and meet me in the anchorage, and I'll do the interview and make sure that all of that and so forth. And it was at that point that Quinala, basically having met Queen Aneth, realized she's nuts. She is not doing this for us. I don't know what's going on with her, but I want no part of it. And it was around that time that Golden Ford was abandoned. So she said, "You know what? I'm getting out of this whole pirate thing. I made a big mistake." And of course, it was then that Rather Swift said, "Hey, you know that job I said I'd want you to do one day?" Though, of course, before that, Airship returns to Providence shortly after you return to Providence. Big party. You meet Engadon again, who, it turns out, was rather shaken by the death of her Titan. And this was... I'd been planning for pretty much the entire campaign that the big final battle would be Engadon attacking Providence with a massive army of undead. But the more I thought about the relationship between her and your characters and the way your characters had been doing things, I thought, I really want to give you a chance to talk her out of attacking the city. And you took that opportunity and you basically made it good. So that was really... I really liked the way that played out.
Thank God for more Zod, because Dagmar and Orsi were very drunk, and Vatericus was not saying the right things.
No, very useless. But
Mozart was he was already the moral compass, and
Yeah.
And
but also the idea of shipping those two together really, God, that would have been sweet. Like if she just became the day.
Yeah, and it was at this point, while I was planning for that, I realised, but if Engadon's not going to be the final boss, I guess I'll just sort of juggle things around a bit and resolve Engadon before doing the Pirate Queen and the Soul Battle. So I made them the conclusion instead of the Engadon, the Siege of Providence. But I liked how that played out, because it meant that you could do the whole anchorage thing. You could learn about the other side of what was going on out there. You could wrap up Rala's story, and then the big soul battle with the soul kaijus was a really fun way of just bringing back lots of dead characters from throughout the campaign in a fight with, in some sense, the highest stakes, because you could conceivably perma die during it, but it was also pretty much the last episode, so that was the time to do it. But also in other ways, you weren't fighting for the city. You weren't actually going to be saving any lives technically. You were quite simply trying to save the souls of those who had already died. So the stakes could arguably be said to be very, very low, and if you'd all died in there, nobody would have seen it happen. Just a couple of gods would have known that it happened, and that would be it. But yeah, and so you took care of the Pirate Queen, you sunk the anchorage, you destroyed the Soul Legions, and we finished.
And we became the biggest, bestest heroes there ever were.
We also joined a very exclusive club of D&D players.
Yes, we did.
Yes, incredibly so.
So I guess one question I'll ask to each of you. What's something you've learnt about playing D&D? from Campaign 1?
Literally all of it.
If
Valid.
somebody were to ask you, how do I play D&D, and you've only got like 10 seconds before you have to get on a bus or something like that, what do you say?
I'd say you pick all of the character traits you have wanted to try out as a person and you play them in the game, and then you start weightlifting and you get more tattoos.
I would agree with literally all of that.
That's how that goes.
Mhm.
As friends. I know
Yeah,
we didn't
play
know
with
each
friends.
other when we started, but it's been a very easy group to get along with.
And now we are friends.
Now we're real friends.
We see each other every week. That's
Mhm.
actually very rare.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's actually more often than I see anyone else in my life other than my mother.
Oh, yeah.
My best friend literally lives upstairs. I see you guys more than I see her.
That is pretty special. I think I mean I already had a bit of a background of role play, so I probably didn't learn a great deal in that regard. I think the most that I learnt out of this one would probably be the mechanics. Because like by the end of it I felt like I could paladin, which was new. That'd be the thing that I learnt.
Yeah, and I feel like I sort of maybe went the other way a little bit more, in that the mechanics were kind of the bit that I got whirring first. And I mean, I guess that's kind of the different play styles, right? And the different ways brains work. Some of us will latch, and I guess that's probably my advice, right? If you don't latch onto the mechanics straight away, don't worry. If you're enjoying the storytelling, stick with that. Roll dice when you get told to, shout out the numbers you roll when you get told to, and you're good to go. But also, if the mechanics are appealing, absolutely chase that and have, like, chase your bliss on having stupid action economy in the way that you do things in combat, or, pursue that plus 20 to your persuasion checks. All that sort of stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and as long as everyone's having fun, great.
And that's part of what I've learned as a dungeon master. People have, if everybody's having fun, then that's what matters, ultimately.
That is the
And
key.
forcing
Number one.
people to have a certain kind of fun is never going to work.
Yeah.
And there are people for whom having fun in Dungeons and Dragons mean the rules are guidelines, and there are people who find the fun, whose fun that they have fun working out how to work within the rules. That for them is what engages them. And as a dungeon master, you just have to know, you have to work out what kind of players do I have, and how can I structure this in a way that everybody's able to play their way and play together in a way that makes sure that everyone's having fun. And
We did talk about that in like that very first session as well, because you were just like, how much combat does everyone want to do on the regular? Because there are some people who want to have combat every single session, whereas we often go sessions without.
I doubt it, yeah.
We go get ice cream, like.
Yeah, we're definitely. I was really happy to find out how well we all meshed, because we really are the more RP heavy party group. which is
I'm lucky that
fun.
we were more RP heavy because, like I said, I knew roleplay. I didn't know D&D.
Coming into this, I mean, the reason I picked the four of you was obviously Doug was the only one of you I'd actually met before, but I met all of the rest of you through Twitter, which is why I'm
Rest in peace.
so frustrated by what that horrible person has been doing to it. Because
We'll miss you, Twitter.
But anyway, it was just by what I'd seen of you through your posts on Twitter that I thought, these people look like fun. And they look like people who will get along with each other and that I could get along with. And that was... I had no real...
You were right, but thinking about that now, wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put any stock in how much experience do they have playing Dungeons and Dragons. Are they are they role players? Are they have they done this sort of thing before? It was just thinking about do I think they'll enjoy this? Do I think they'll play well together? I think they will. And then, session 0, by the end of session 0, I was going, yeah, I think this is a good group we've got together. So, and I'm glad that worked out. But yeah, most important thing for me, which I've said a few times tonight, is just make sure everyone's having fun. And if they're currently having fun, it's okay to just let them keep having fun. You don't need to say, stop having fun. We need to be serious for the next, 2 hours or
Let
whatever.
them get the ice cream.
Yeah, this is as much a social thing as it is a game that we play together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Especially, how many lockdowns did this game go through? Like,
Look, I have never
Good
really
timing.
unlocked down.
Yeah, true.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I don't leave my house.
No, the lockdown happened, and then I was in hospital. And
You
then
played a session from hospital.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
remember
then
that.
by the time I actually apologized to the person that was in the same room as me. I was like, all right, I'm going to be a funny orc for a couple of hours. If I'm being too loud, just throw something at me. It's fine. And yeah, I did that one while paralyzed with pain down one side of my body. It was fantastic.
But we didn't know because you were an animated Morzard who just did this
Yeah, it was fantastic. But yeah, like I was in hospital, and then by the time I came out, we were locked down again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. No, this was perfect timing.
I mean,
And that was
geez.
part of your reasoning. I remember you saying, like, since it's a lockdown and stuff, people are going to want some kind of entertainment, me included.
Yeah, when we started, it was the start of 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the
Like,
end
we'd
of...
been through a year of pandemic, and we were like, this is
It was
a lot.
December 2020 they reached out to the 4 of you. And January the next year that we started.
Yep.
Um,
So 2 years and 8 months.
and I also think one of the most important things I did, or that we did at the beginning, was agree that we would meet every week on a certain day at a certain time.
I committed. I moved obligations. I was like, no, this is serious, and I am actually going to make this like the appointment that I am always at.
And while, of course, always making allowances for the fact that we're human beings and life happens, to make it clear that for each of us, this was a priority for us. This is something we cared about and wanted to do. And to set that up from the beginning, I think was probably one of the best things we did in making sure that we kept playing.
Yeah.
Because we made that commitment to each other in the beginning.
Communication. We did it.
Yeah, like the consistency was also really nice. Like it was always just like, it's back when I was in Australia, it was like, Thursday night, it's D&D night.
Yeah, boy.
We also have a
Nice.
banging group chat that never dies.
Right. And like it's not even, it just grew. It's not, I wouldn't have found Warhammer if I hadn't met you guys. And now look at me, I'm building little Vashtor.
I apologize most sincerely.
I spent so much money on
Very sorry, not sorry.
But it's getting late. It's getting late.
It is, and like I'm sitting like this because my headset has run out of batteries, and if I don't hold the thing against it, I've dropped out twice.
I've nearly filled in a whole can.
Wow,
Holy
look at
shit.
you go.
Wow.
I'm just Ken, y'all.
So back to our viewers. I've suddenly remembered that you're there. Thank you very much for watching. As you can tell, I hope this has been a lot of fun for us. We will be back in September. We'll give you an exact date when we get closer. I know a few of our players happen to have something happening at the beginning of September that would stop us meeting then. So we'll meet after that. Campaign 2 will kick off. This will be also a chance for, we might try and encourage new viewers to come in for Campaign 2. Chance to do a bit of self-promotion again, which I know I am terrible at.
I forgot the password for the Instagram account, so you're not alone. Like a year ago.
And we might come back before then with a one-shot, but we might not. A lot of us are actually pretty busy at the moment, it seems. So we'll chat a bit more offline about whether that's actually possible. But if not, we will definitely be back in September. So we won't be gone for more than about a month or so. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.